What's up, my dudes? It's the Vigorous Q&A again. I got a new microphone, but the only thing I still need to connect is the cloud lifter. But the Shure, what is it, SM7B and the Wave XLR and all the cables and shit, they're all connected. So let me know how the audio sounds. Hopefully it's a little bit better. I'm using crisp technology. So maybe the breathing is still a little bit off, but at least it tends to cut off the audio from the air conditioning and the fan and the laptop. So hopefully the audio quality is absolutely fantastic right now, or way better than it was, especially the internal microphone of this laptop. I spent the entire day trying to set this up. So let me know if everything sounds good. I still have to put this cloud lifter in, which we'll probably do next weekend because I'm still waiting for 2 more cables of XLR, a little bit high quality, because it seems that these cables pick up a little bit of interference, but I think that the crisp, let's see, artificial intelligence is smart enough to kind of pick that up. So again, for the 2 viewers that are here right now, please let me know how it sounds. And in the meantime, just a quick shout out down below. You can find the link to Dave Tate's Elite FTS Table Talk episode, Table Talk episode 243, which we recorded the Monday after the Swiss Symposium. So it's pretty much a month old, but they had to release it a little bit late because they had so many podcasts backed up. And then the Mark Bell Power Project episode 1010 was released, also linked down below. And then tomorrow, Sunday or Monday, I'm not entirely sure, Nell Naiga's Transparent podcast will release as well, which we recorded, let's say, a week ago on Friday before I flew back home. So 3 podcasts dropping quite soon and a lot of podcasts lined up. Hopefully we can get one out the door next week on this YouTube channel. Good things are coming. Now, let's put it that way. So let's see. Let's just get started with the questions. Jake, how's the audio? Let me know how it is. Let's see. Jake Applebaum asks, hey, Steve, regarding the mood improvement and giddy feeling from growth hormone, any ideas about the mechanism that causes that? Actually, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it could be upregulation of serotonin and dopamine, but I haven't really looked into that to that extent yet. So it could be just simply sedation, right? When you feel a little bit sedation or sedated, just like you feel from sleep aids or alcohol or weed or kratom, you feel a little bit giddy and good feeling. Maybe it's cortisol suppression. That could be the case. I mean, we do know that growth hormone suppresses cortisol quite a bit. So maybe that is the mechanism, but I haven't really looked into it that far. Audio is great. Okay, that's good to know. I haven't really looked into that mechanism directly. So if anybody knows, please fill us in the comment section. And otherwise, it might be interesting to include that in the growth hormone deep dive, which eventually takes place in the membership section, which I just started outlining what I need to do for the membership section. And that's going to be one hell of a ride. Yeah. All right. Next one. Henry Pham asks, hey, Steve, why do people taper down post-psychotherapy dosages towards the end of a post-psychotherapy? Have you ever noticed eye floaters in your post-psychotherapies? So no, I never really got eye floaters from Clomid. Of course, I got the, the weird mental effects where you feel very estrogenic, very emotional, very easy to cry during movies. Yeah, so it just comes with the territory. Again, I don't think that post-psychotherapy drugs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, are very sustainable. So I wouldn't run Nolvadex, Clomid, or raloxifene and clomiphene, one combination of the other, for too long, longer than is required to restore hypothalamic pituitary testes axis functioning. And the reason why we taper these drugs off is because in the beginning you need more of estrogen blockade and estrogen suppression from Nolvadex, for example. So you need more of this estrogen blockade to really get the pituitary and the hypothalamus to restart the secretion of gonadotropin releasing hormone and downstream from the pituitary, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So what the Nolvadex does, one of its metabolites, norendoxaphene, it acts as an aromatase inhibitor and reduces the conversion of testosterone into estradiol. So even though testosterone levels are low, it will still convert into estradiol, and DHEA converting into testosterone into estradiol as well. So if you inhibit the conversion into estradiol, then this negative effect that estradiol will have on your HPTA is now further blunted by the high dose of serums that you're taking. So you're blocking the receptors and serum estradiol levels are low. And in the beginning, you want that. You want basically complete estrogen blockade and estrogen deficiency. So your hypothalamus and pituitary will produce the most amount of gonadotropin hormone, releasing hormone and luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone for your testicles to start producing testosterone again. Now, once testosterone levels come up, in the meantime, that your serum dose is high, the conversion is also going to take place unless you have Nolvadex in the picture when it's metabolite nor endoxifen to inhibit or prevent the conversion. So in this sense, even though testosterone is slowly coming up, estrogen will still stay suppressed. But after a while, you don't want that, of course, because estrogen helps with follicle stimulating hormone receptor sensitivity. So you don't want that too long, right? You do want to induce spermatogenesis later on. So in the beginning, you have the Nolvadex and the Clomid reasonably high for LH and FSH levels to come up. Then you taper that down. You do this in a step-by-step fashion so your pituitary and your hypothalamus can kind of get used to this reduction of estrogen blockade. And then maybe with 2 or 3 increments, your estrogen levels, of course, will come up because you get less of this aromatase inhibiting effect from the norendoxifen metabolite and less of an estrogen blockade. And then over 2-week increments, your pituitary and hypothalamus kind of gets used to that, but LH and FSH secretion should stay somewhat elevated. Again, time will tell, right? If your pulse-cycle therapy is successful, ideally you let all of the steroid hormones decline first, and it could take 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe even 18 months if you're using Nandrolone. We don't know how suppressive the metabolites of Nandrolone are on the HPTA. It hasn't been investigated. So if you want to play it safe, I would do TRT for 6 months and then start your pulse-cycle therapy after stopping the TRT, let's say 6 weeks before starting the PCT. Yeah, I detail all of this in the PCT videos and PCT ebooks. All right, what's next? Alvaro JD, the timestamps guy. What's up, buddy? What causes the increase in hunger by Boldenone as reported by many people? Can it be the Boldenone itself, the increase in dosage, since Boldenone tends to be used at higher dosages, or something else? Well, it's probably kidney failure, as I documented in that 2-part video about Boldenone. And kidney failure can make you hungry as well, because now you start to lose all the protein in your urine. Actually, that's not true. I'm trolling. I'm trolling here. It could be that Boldenone uniquely has a special effect on your metabolism. I mean, you know, when you go on testosterone, of course, your androgenic burden goes up. You maybe free up more thyroid hormones by reducing thyroid binding globulins. But the same can be said for Anavar, and the same can be said for many steroids, potentially including Boldenone, but I haven't investigated that. Eventually, I will get to that part. Again, part of the membership website where I'll just go restart the steroid knowledge from bottom up. So it will take a fuckload of videos to get that done, but it will be done eventually. So for now, I would say that you just get more androgens in your system on top of your testosterone. Hopefully you're using testosterone as a base when you add the Boldenone in. And then, of course, let's say you run 300 tests, 300 Boldenone, or 600 tests, 600 Boldenone, or I don't know, 900, 1200 tests, and 900, 1200 Boldenone. Since you're increasing the test to Boldenone both in this context for favorable estrogen levels, your increments go up, you know, double, right, for the test and the Boldenone, and then your androgen burden goes up quite a bit. So that means from the androgen burden, you get more hungry. I mean, if you're on 2 grams a test, you're hungry. If you're on a gram a test and 300 or 700 milligrams of Trenbolone, you're hungry. And with Boldenone, people tend to ramp up the dosages a little bit more. I mean, dosages of 600, 900, 1200 milligrams Boldenone are not unheard of. And that is considered still a good dose for the off season. So more anabolic loads, increasing the hunger. And of course, if your metabolism increases potentially by freeing up more thyroid hormones by reducing thyroid binding globulins, then metabolism speeds up even further and hunger goes up more. But I'm not entirely sure if Boldenone upregulates your B vitamins, which helps with metabolism as well, or if Boldenone particularly speeds up thyroid production, besides freeing up the thyroid hormones from the thyroid binding globulin, which is being lowered. I'm not entirely sure. I'll get to that part eventually. I'm going to break down the effects of steroids on each organ individually. Again, that's going to take a long ass time. All right, next one from Darius. Darius asked a boatload of questions, so Jake, we'll get to your questions soon. Darius was the only one who asked questions on Patreon. I don't know what happened. I went on holiday and all the Patreon members left. Not that they canceled their memberships, but it seems that everybody's on their own holiday now as well. So Darius, we're going to get to all your questions right now. He asks, optimal blast to cruise ratio. Should a blast go on as long as blood work is good, or should it be cut short for a certain number of weeks, even if blood work is good? Well, if you're getting results, you're having fun, and your blood work is good, I would say that the blast should continue. But again, you don't have to start your blast with a blast dose that would blast your socks off and your kidneys into kidney failure and your liver into prolapsing from your asshole. You can start with a moderate dose. Just visualizing that. Oh no. Yeah. So back to the topic. So you can start your blast at a low dose, which is a little bit higher than your cruise dose. So if you're cruising on a TRT dose or a TRT for bodybuilder dose with 250 milligrams testosterone per week, you can start your cruise at 375 test, right? And then 500, and then 750, and then 1000, and 1250. And you can slowly build it up. So let's say the first 6 months of your blast are kind of moderate. You're under a gram of steroids combined. I would consider that moderate for bodybuilding purposes. And again, if you're a fitness enthusiast, maybe 500 milligrams is moderate. And if you got 500 tests and GH and insulin, IGF-1, and a couple, ancillaries on top, then of course 500 tests sounds moderate, but your entire cycle, your entire blast is not moderate anymore because you're utilizing so many different compounds. So moderate is entirely up to you. Let's say moderate, your blood work parameters are still good. And then as the cycle, the blast proceeds, at one point you get into those dosages where results are really good, but your blood work kind of starts to deteriorate. And then even if you deploy all the health supplements and the ancillaries and the CPAP machines and the best practices for sleep quality and the condoms and all that stuff, right? You're completely encapsulated in, let's see, preventative measures, and your blood work is still not good, but the results are still good, then maybe you stretch that period for 4 weeks, right? Where you're in poor state of health, but the results in the gym, the gains and the vascularity and the size and the personal best are all still leveling up. Maybe you tolerate that for a month where your blood work is absolute shit, but the results are still good, and then you throw in the towel. That's what I would say. And usually that last month of the blast where your blood work is shit, an Anadrol or Superdrol or another strong oral is deployed to really push you over the edge of, borderline bad health and then getting into terrible health, basically, where you look at your blood work, you're like, kind of fucked yourself there. Time to throw in the towel, taking out all the orals and the Trembolone sandwich and lowering the insulin and lowering the growth hormone and going back to a cruise dose. It could be 150 tests, 200 tests, 250 tests, maybe 300 tests if you're a 300-pound beast. But let's be honest, most guys are not. That's quite rare, to be honest. So you go back to a cruise dose and then you cruise for as long as you need to get healthy. And then you need a couple months of your blood work to be good while cruising. You can still make good progress if your food intake is high, but what I would recommend most people is just to get lean during their cruise, because now you reduce the load of steroids, you reduce the load of training volume, you reduce the load of training intensity and of overall lifting weights, right? Because you get less strong, and then you reduce the load of the performance enhancing drugs. You clean out, your body gets healthy, your joints get a little bit less sore, the inflammation goes down, whether that's in the joints or systemic or the intestinal tract. So you kind of clean out from all angles, and then you start ramping up the dose again after you've had a certain amount of months where your blood work parameters are nice and solid, and you still feel comfortable that your gains are somewhat sustained. And even though your muscularity goes down and your strength goes down, the overall performance isn't down so much that the first increment or two of your upcoming blast is not able to restore all of the strength and the muscularity and the freakiness and the overall size that you had at the end of your blast. Now, sounds very complicated. That's why we have coaches. Yeah, not me. I retired, but plenty of good coaches do something similar along these lines, and they will get you the results over consecutive cruises and blasts. And let's say after 5 years, you should look pretty damn good. All right, Darius also asks, opinion on bremelanotide Vyleesi used in men for libido. So that's PT141 for the uninitiated. Bremelanotide Vyleesi is the brand name, which I've never been able to find anywhere, I would love to try it. I've heard anecdotal reports of people getting Vyleesi through a compounding pharmacy anti-aging clinic in the United States. But I never was able to try it myself or got a sample or found it somewhere on the underground labs. It's always PT1 for 1. And I think PT1 for 1 works great if you use it intermittently. It seems that the first time you use it, it doesn't really work fast. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to build up. But then with consecutive use, it works within an hour, especially if you combine it with oxytocin and Semax, which are all documented in the, best practices for maximum libido for him and her. I have several videos about that. Just type in libido on my channel and you should probably get that. Easily, recommended through the search algorithm. And I think the dosages are anywhere between 0.1 to 1 milligram, and it highly depends on the individual. So I used 1 milligram PT1 for 1, which gave me raging boners, I'll be honest. But it also gave me a raging skin tan, and that raging skin tan was a little bit muddy. So if you go back to like 2021, when I had that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and I was still wanted to run some experiments, PT1 for 1 was on the to-do list, and then my skin got a little bit muddy. Now, also because I don't really go out to tan, and of course I was using glutathione, so you get mixed signals of pigmentation. The PT1 for 1 is telling your pigmentation to go up through the melanocortin receptors, and then glutathione is reducing your pigmentation because that's what it does. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it does work. I mean, look at me, I'm on a boatload of glutathione for fertility purposes. So feel free to experiment with it. You might have to do a couple days on 1 milligram, and then you can reduce the dose to 0.5 milligram or 0.1 milligram even, depending on your mileage and your erectile quality. Next one, Darius asks, does training with higher loads, closer to 1 rep max, build more muscle density than normal 8 to 12 rep training? Isn't this just total bro science? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, because most of the bodybuilders with a lot of muscle density and maturity, they train within the 6 to 12, 15, 20 rep range. And when in doubt, look at the guy with the most muscle maturity and the most muscle density, Ronnie Coleman. He did high volume, high frequency, and high rep ranges, but then once in a while he threw in a 2-rep set. So basically, in the words of Jordan Peters, not Jordan Peterson, but Jordan Peters, one of the strongest Caucasians on the planet when it comes to higher rep ranges, gets strong in all rep ranges. So he gets strong in the 4 to 6 rep range, and the 6 to 10, right? And the 8 to 12, and the 10 to 15, and the 12 to 20 rep range. Gets strong in all rep ranges. And then at one point, you look like a freak. Right? So that's what I will do when I get back on the gain train. There's also asks, do you really have to do a post-psychotherapy for growth hormone when discontinuing it? No, that was just a giant troll. But of course, the MK677 crowd, once in a while, you need to put them in place and give them a little bit shock value. So that's why I mentioned that you need to fast for 5 days after a cycle of MK677 to restore growth hormone secretion. It's mostly for insulin sensitivity purposes, but it's actually not required. So will it not just come back within a couple days without all the secretagogues? Maybe a 1-day fast will be enough. Okay, so yeah, it was a total troll. When you stop the MK677, let's say within 36 hours, at most 48 hours, your IGF-1 levels will come down. So now you reduce the negative feedback from the IGF-1. That would blunt further growth hormone secretion and IGF-1 production downstream from the elevated growth hormone, obviously. The hunger will go down, obviously, because you're not stimulating the ghrelin receptor, and thus the somatostatin, which comes up following meals, will come down. So now you have a normal appetite, normal food quantity, normal food volume, reduced caloric intake. So somatostatin should be significantly reduced, but the activation of ghrelin might be reduced as well. So basically within 2 days, I would say normal growth hormone secretion would continue, and then you can stimulate that with a couple of the amino acids. Which one was it? Man, I mentioned that in the MK677 video. There was one amino acid which was really good, and I completely blank out on it, but just go back to the MK677 video. I list all the growth hormone secreting compounds. Melatonin is a very potent growth hormone secretor, so maybe fast for 2 days to restore your insulin sensitivity as the MK677 in the IGF-1 levels and the ghrelin antagonism or ghrelin activation, ghrelin receptor activation, and the somatostatin levels come down to zero pretty fast. So you do fast for 2 days. Look into the amino acids, which help with growth hormone secretion after the fast, obviously. And melatonin doesn't really have caloric value, so you can take maybe 3, 10, 30, 100 milligrams, up to your preference, melatonin before bed to stimulate growth hormone secretion quite favorably. I think I got, man, when I was doing 30 milligrams of melatonin, how much? I think it was it like 8 or 9 nanograms per milliliter? I'd have to look back on it. Yeah, but melatonin, 30 milligrams of melatonin, even though it made me feel clinically depressed, it did raise my growth hormone levels the next day quite a bit. Darius asks, opinion on closed fist training for gripping the bar as hard as possible. This is a neurological drive associated with making a fist stimulate aggression and power. Is more open-handed training, like using fat grips on pressing, stupid? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I mean, we do have the grip strength training in some scientific studies to check for neurological drive and see if particular models are more effective than others. But how that translates into a real-world application, you're probably better off asking somebody who really specializes in that field. So somebody who specializes in training advice, like Mike Israetel, for example, he would probably have a video about that. But since we specialize on safer practices regarding performance-enhancing drugs on this channel, I'm drawing a blank. All right. So I've used fat grips on arm training, fun, get a lot of good pumps in the gym, especially in the biceps. I've used fat grips on back training, but made my grip fail. So especially the heavy weights I was using at the time. So I would not use fat grips for back training, but for bicep training, it's a lot of fun. And now we're not going to make analogies. Let's just skip over that. So additional research might be required for you to get a satisfying answer on that question. Is there a minimum dose for exogenous insulin that needs to be taken to create the synergistic effect with growth hormone? If one takes 30 IUs Lantus a day, isn't that just replacement dose? Now, basal insulin is between 5 to 10 IUs per day. And even if you take 5 IUs or 10 IUs of Lantus or another long-acting insulin, several different brands, then that will complement the insulin that your pancreas already release, even in a basal state. So let's say you produce 10 IUs of basal insulin per day, and you supplement with 10 IUs Lantus on top, then in total you have 20 IUs of insulin acting over a 24-hour period. Now, if you start ramping up the dose, you might get a blunting effect on the pancreas, but I can't remember reading a study where that was investigated. So in my opinion, you complement the pancreas by taking exogenous insulin, assuming you're not a type 1 or type 2 diabetic, obviously. Again, we're taking this for anabolic purposes, not for medicinal purposes, because our pancreas is failing or insufficient when it comes to insulin production. So let's say you produce 10 IUs of basal insulin and you eat 300 carbs, then the basal insulin will more than cover it, and probably you're releasing a lot more insulin to cover the 300 carbs that you're eating. Now you start supplementing with Lantus, let's say 10 IUs, you're probably still producing a little bit of insulin with meals on top of the basal insulin that you're producing in the pancreas and the basal insulin, the long-acting insulin that you're injecting in the form of Lantus. Did I say pancreas before? I think I said pancreas, right? So 10 IUs from the pancreas and 10 IUs from Lantus. And then maybe you produce another 10 IUs intermittently, as the carbs are flowing into your body. Now, if you start taking 20 IUs of Lantus on top of the 10 IUs basal insulin for the 300 carbs that you're eating, you might be breaking it even. And if you go to 40 IUs of Lantus, you probably go hypoglycemic, right? So this is why I always tell people to slowly ramp up the dose of Lantus, because at one point there will be a dose of diminishing return, and then the basal insulin might still be secreted, so let's say 5 to 10 IUs, but the Lantus dose is too high for the amount of carbohydrates and overall nutrients that you're eating, because you still get a little bit of gluconeogenesis from the protein that you're consuming, obviously, right? That can sustain your blood sugar to a certain extent. So start low and build your way up, and whatever the effective dose is for the amount of food that you're eating, that's the dose that will work for you. That could be 5 IUs, that could be 10 IUs, that could be 30 IUs, that could be 80 IUs. depending on how much food you're eating and what else you're doing, right? So you can use Lantus without growth hormone, but you get a better synergistic effect with the growth hormone because growth hormone raises IGF-1. It seems that Lantus raises IGF-1 the most out of all the insulins that is out there. And of course, if you have more IGF-1, you get more insulin sensitizing effect, more nutrient partitioning on top of the Lantus that you're taking, but also more cell proliferation, which requires more nutrients to be shuttled into the cell that is now dividing. Because if you turn one cell into two cells, you need a good amount of energy, right, for ATP synthesis, for all the, machinery to work, and pull the DNA apart, and then, fill in the blanks, to put it simply, right? Because when you pull the DNA apart, you have blanks on both sides, and that has to be filled in. That takes energy and amino acids. Then the cell needs to kind of close on top of this DNA that's now divided and refilled. And then all the machinery needs to be transcribed again, because you get half the machinery, half the protein expression in this cell division process. This requires a lot of energy. So if growth hormone is high, IGF-1 is high, and Lantus insulin is high, and food intake is high, I would say that you get the most synergistic effect. Yeah, and this is why people usually don't grow much when they're in a caloric deficit, because the cell division and the cell recovery isn't as optimal, even though the drugs are in place. You still need nutrients for that, entire process to work. All right, here we go. We're getting into the questions. Jake Applebaum, do you think taking Anavar sublingually shortens the half-life and causes it to be cleared from the body faster? Yes, but by how much? I'm not entirely sure. So if you take, let's compare, right? You take Anavar sublingually and Anavar orally, and then you have rectally. But let's not go, for the sake of this segment, let's not go there. So if you take it, this orally, it goes into the intestinal tract. That slows the digestion when you have food present or not. But especially if you take Anavar with food, it slows the digestion quite a bit. And if you take it with apple cider vinegar or metformin, it slows it even further. So you have sustained release of the Anavar going into your liver first. Now, the intestinal tract has aromatase enzymes which don't affect Anavar because it can't convert into estradiol, right? Or methyl estradiol or anything else. So the aromatase enzymes you don't have to worry about. But it does have 17-alpha or 17-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase enzymes, which will metabolize the Anavar already. So now you reduce the bioavailability. You potentially reduce the bioavailability by slowing absorption. And if fiber's in the picture and other medications, it might actually inhibit the absorption over the time that the Anavar is passing through your intestinal tract. Right, so now you reduce the bioavailability. Then you reduce the bioavailability further by the metabolizing enzymes which are present in the intestinal tract. And then you have glucuronidation, which also occurs in the intestinal tract to a very trace amount, but that mostly happens in the peripheral tissue. So that gets the Anavar or the metabolites gets deactivated, basically, marked for excretion. But there's enterohepatic recirculation and the removal of conjugates and the glucuronidase. So you're probably breaking that even in that aspect, unless you're really hammering on the calcium deglucarate and the, what is it called? The hydrolyzed casein protein, which inhibits those steps. And then the Anavar goes into the liver, right, where it gets metabolized into the hepatocytes potentially. So that's the first pass. So now already the bioavailability is reduced. It goes into the hepatocytes. It's partially metabolized. And then as the hepatocyte is destroyed, the remainder of the Anavar goes into the bloodstream and starts activating the androgen receptors. Fingers crossed, please, 24,000 Hail Marys that it takes place. So you can bypass all of these steps by taking Anavar sublingually, right underneath the tongue. Doesn't reduce bioavailability by breaking down in the intestinal tract or slowing the absorption. Doesn't reduce the bioavailability by breaking down in the liver on the first pass. So now you have 100% of the Anavar in your bloodstream right away. Right away. So you don't want to do this when your blood flow is not really good. You want to do this directly before a workout, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes before you start working out. Because, of course, the half-life of Anavar is based on conventional absorption orally. And what was it, 8.5? Now, don't quote me on this. Let's consult Wikipedia. Anavar half-life. Let's see. 9 hours. All right, it was not far off. So is that true? 9.4 to 10.4 hours, but the extended to 13.3 hours in the elderly. Okay. So it's, let's say in the young people, 9 to 10 hours, right, on average. Okay. So that's through conventional oral administration. Now, if you, and that's, let's say, over, a multitude of hours that it's absorbing from your intestinal tract and passing the liver. Now, let's say you take it sublingually and you get accidentally the entire dose of Anavar sublingually right into the bloodstream within 5 to 10 minutes of sublingual absorption. Of course, the half-life is going to be diminished because you don't get this sustained release from the intestinal tract. You get it acutely sublingually. So I would recommend everybody to do this only pre-workout, in a pre-workout context, because then the Anavar can circulate and is very high likelihood, entropy aside, very high likelihood that the Anavar is going to attach and activate the androgen receptors in the muscle tissue that you're training, because the blood flow to that muscle tissue is increased, and the blood that is going to this muscle tissue that you're training is full with Anavar, obviously. So instead of this blood traveling to your prostate or your heart or your eyes or anywhere else where you don't really want Anavar to work, it's going to the skeletal muscle, right? And then on the way back from the skeletal muscle, it passes the connective tissue and the skin, right? That's how the circulatory system works. So you maybe get some additional collagen synthesis in the connective tissue, the tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and the skin on the way back to the heart, and then it kind of circulates until it all metabolizes. So I would say that sublingual absorption shortens the half-life by how much? Could be 50%, could be 30%, could be, I don't know, 80%. I don't think it's been investigated, but it should be an interesting topic to do on my very long to-do list of video topics. All right, next one. Andreas, heard about somatrogon, essentially a long-lasting growth hormone. Yeah, I've heard about that. I think it's not FDA approved yet, but they're looking into it. They were undergoing phase 1 or 2 clinical trials last time I checked. And if so, what are your thoughts? So this would basically be the same as MK677, right? So I think this is just long-lasting growth hormone bound to, growth hormone binding proteins, which is actually the truncated version of the growth hormone receptor, and can, attach to the cell membrane and potentiate some effects. So I think it's going to be working better than IGF-1 combined with IGF-1 binding protein 3, which is Iplex. I'm not sure if that's still available. I haven't seen it anywhere, but I was able to find Increlex, so maybe Iplex is next. So I do think that somatrogon, if it's bound to growth hormone binding protein, it should be biologically active, but it's just longer lasting in the bloodstream, because normally this gets broken down with enzymes unless it's part of binding protein. So testosterone can't be broken down if it's part of albumin or sex hormone binding globulin. And thyroid hormones can't be broken down if they're part of thyroid binding globulin. So if growth hormone can't be broken down if it's bound to a binding protein, same as IGF-1 can be broken down if it's part of IGF-1 binding protein 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., then it increases the half-life, but it can still potentiate its effects through this truncated version of the receptor. So would it be less useful compared to daily growth hormone administration because of the refractory period for growth hormone? Potentially, right? I mean, we'll really have to see on what the scientific literature says when this product is released and what the community is going to say, because you bet your left testicle that I will get my hands on it, and then we'll experiment with it and see if it compares to MK677 from a serum concentration perspective, from an IGF-1 concentration or elevation perspective, and from an overall anabolism/fat loss perspective, right? And of course, running that experiment 1 month on MK677 and then 1 month on somatrogon, let's say 30 milligrams MK677 before bed versus 2 to 3 IUs of somatrogon before bed, not changing anything to the diet, not changing anything to the rest of the protocol and the the training strategy. Time will tell. But it does look very promising, and of course, if it's a long-acting growth hormone and you only have to inject it once, saves you some time. But I think bodybuilders and people in the fitness industry like to inject multiple times per day because you get a little bit of positive affirmation that every injection works with your overall goals. So, people might be missing out like, "Oh, why am I only doing one shot when I could be doing three?" And you know how people are. They start looking into the half-life and the active life of the somatrogen or somatrogon. And then they see, oh, it's only the half-life is only 12 hours, so I'm going to inject it twice anyway. And then most people inject their growth hormone twice or 3 times per day already. So what's the fucking point, right? All right, next one. Jake Applebaum. I feel the best on a very low carbohydrate diet and supplement with 6 to 10 grams of sodium plus other electrolytes. Good. Sounds good to me. Adding GH1AU causes edema. Am I better off reducing the sodium or reducing the GH? Well, 1 IU GH is not that high. I would rather have you switch brands to Norditropin or Serostim, right? Which don't seem to potentiate that much water retention compared to other growth hormones. But again, growth hormone response is individual. So if the current growth hormone dose at 1 IU is causing you edema, switch to another brand and keep the dose the same. Because some of the generics out there, they contain anti-diuretic hormone, or they have impurities which your body is trying to get rid of, and they don't contribute to the overall anabolism, but they do contribute to the side effects. So why don't we go to a growth hormone that causes you less side effects, so you don't have to change anything to your sodium intake? When I think that 6 to 10 grams of sodium is totally fine if you live in a hot climate and you sweat a lot, and you train a lot, and your water intake is quite high as well. And otherwise, look into telmisartan or empagliflozin, even though I would say that telmisartan is a little bit more favorable in a protocol like this compared to empagliflozin, because that modulates the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system favorably, allowing you to run growth hormone pretty high and your sodium pretty high with minimal water retention. So even though you're adding in one more compound to the total stack of compounds, if you run through several brands of growth hormone and the edema is still there, maybe run some telmisartan, 20 milligrams, 40 milligrams, to get rid of the edema. Have you ever heard of injectable Ubiquinol? I saw injectable coenzyme Q10, thought of using it as a pre-workout, but I could also homebrew injectable Ubiquinol. Any thoughts? I think the oral bioavailability is actually quite good, so why would you? Ubiquinol oral bioavailability. Let's see. Highly variable among individuals. Coenzyme Q10 has low oral bioavailability due to its lipophilic nature, large molecule weight. Okay. Well, if it's lipophilic, then of course you take it with fat. That's why most of the ubiquinol and the coenzyme Q10 formulas are in gel caps. Right. So, I've never heard of injectable coenzyme Q10 or ubiquinol, but feel free to run the experiment and document your results through Instagram direct message. And then if it's very, very promising, I'll look into it. But I think the oral version is just fine. I notice a noticeable effect if I take 400 milligrams oral ubiquinol pre-workout, especially towards the tail end of my workout. I feel that my stamina and overall energy levels are far better than without it. Yeah. John Prather, when you do fasted card... Look at that thumbnail. Jeez. Where is that from? I don't recognize this one. Interesting thumbnail. All right. When you do fasted cardio, is there a particular heart rate that you prefer? Zone 2. Let's say anywhere between 125 to 135 beats per minute. That seems to be quote unquote zone 2 for me. Of course, everybody's different due to their age and their hematocrit count. Because for zone 2, you also want to be almost out of breath, but you still can hold a conversation, right? So, and some exercises are more strenuous on your quads and knees and calves and the overall lower body for a particular amount of heart rate than other exercises. So, elliptical I can do quite intense, but my heart rate is quite low. But as soon as you do the Stairmaster, my heart rate is quite high and my knees are on fire. So it really depends on which exercise you prefer and how high your heart rate is for the amount of strain that you put on your lower body. So personally, I like the elliptical or just a treadmill. But some people prefer the Stairmaster because their heart rate goes quite high and you know, they have low impact on their knees because biomechanically they're just built better for stairs. So give it a try. But it's good to do it every single day. I do it every single day, or most days at least. When I was in the United States, I barely did fasted cardio, but I get like 15,000 to 25,000 steps in every single day. Yeah, so excuse me if I didn't do cardio when I was in the US. One of two. Oh, man. A lot of questions. One of two. Growth hormone is causing a reduction in my N3 deep sleep and REM sleep, measured by professional grade home sleep study device. I'm guessing due to an increased T4 to T3 conversion. I'm on T3 only for Hashimoto's because T4 made me feel like hell. Given my sleep issues with growth hormone and T4 issues, do you agree I should not add T4 while using growth hormone or cut my T3 dose and add some T4? Well, we're not, I mean, you're speculating here, right? Why don't you take the growth hormone out and or take the growth hormone at a different time of day so it doesn't interfere with your sleep? If you're taking growth hormone before bed, then maybe it interferes with your sleep. Maybe you should take some melatonin before bed and growth hormone upon waking. What is your T4 intake? Like maybe your T4 levels are kind of low because the growth hormone is still promoting the conversion of T4 into T3. But if you're not supplementing with T4 and due to Hashimoto's, maybe you're not producing enough T4 by yourself, so your T4 levels are low and your T3 levels are super high because the little amount of T4 that you have is being converted into T3, and then you're supplementing with T3. Maybe your supplemental dose of T3 is too high, or maybe you're taking that too late in the evening. Maybe you should take your T4 and T3 50% in the morning, 50% in the afternoon, your growth hormone in the morning. So by the time the growth hormone is metabolized, there's no additional T4 to T3 conversion later in the day, and then you should sleep accordingly. So you're going to have to experiment a little bit with dosing protocols and overall dosages of the compounds that you're taking until your growth hormone is good, right? But without blood work, we're just speculating here. And yeah, without blood work, we don't really know. So maybe do your blood work and a sleep study around the same time. And then, you know, depending on how your sleep was, you might want to make some adjustments to your performance-enhancing drug protocol to see if that improves your sleep the next time you do a sleep study or with a sleep study comparable device, right? And I don't think that an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch is comparable to a sleep study. Yeah. John Prather, it's you laying on the beach. Ah, right. That was in Bali. Yeah, that was super chill. It's you laying on the beach. I put it on here for meme week and I've never changed it. I saw some people still just my face as their avatar, and then they post on people's YouTube channels that I don't really like. It's hilarious. Yeah. Steve's there in spirit. All right, I guess we went through all the questions. Let's see if anybody posted something on Patreon in the meantime. I guess not. How's the audio quality so far, guys? I spent, yeah, too much money on this setup. So I really hope it sounds good. And then this crisp artificial intelligence is making me sound good. I do feel that the breathing and stuff, there's a little bit of clipping still. But maybe the longer I use this artificial intelligence, the more it gets used to my voice and the better it sounds. But I don't think that you can pick up on the fan and the air conditioning and my laptop buzzing. So at least I think the audio is good. It took me like 5 to 6 hours to set everything up today. And then I did 2 consultations and then I took a nap. Yeah, so hopefully everything is good. So, and otherwise, let's see, what is Paul Burnett doing? Because of the time zone difference, maybe there's not so many people this time. Oh, there's 106 people watching into Paul Burnett's live stream. Damn. 106. What is Paul up to? Oh, Paul is looking lean. Bolton is the only one with hair. All right. Now let's let that run. John, How about weighing in on the age-old debate whether a higher dose are more useful on a bulk versus a cut? I mean, if you want to make gains, a higher dose is more beneficial. I think it's weird that John Jewett was saying that you need to, or some of the other people saying that you need to reduce the dose on a cut because you only need to maintain, a size. Which, of course, if you're trying to make weight for a weight class like 212, that makes sense. I mean, I've put some of my previous athletes on low dose cycles when they were making weight because you know already that if you put them on high dose cycles, they're going to make too much gains and then they jump a weight class or two. So you put them on a maintenance dose. And then towards the end, when you're confident in that they're going to make weight with practices, right? Weight loss practices like getting leaner and water manipulation and removing the food for a day or two if needed. Then you can maybe throw in a couple of orals, to add in the hardness. But I think it's just very simple. If you want to make progress, food intake is high and drug intake, slowly goes up. But on a cut, generally speaking, I would say because the food intake is low, the drug intake is going to be higher compared to a bulk because you're removing the anabolism of food, right? Food is highly anabolic due to the nutrient partitioning and the insulin and the overall hormonal response that foods obviously causes. So when you take the food away or you reduce that, fullness goes away, and you can artificially improve fullness with steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs, and artificially improve the protein, protein expression and overall, protein synthesis with drugs. When even though protein intake is elevated during a cut to compensate for a reduction in calories coming from carbs and fats, you're still going to get a good amount of gluconeogenesis from the protein that you're eating, which is also insulinotropic. So you might still elicit a hormonal response from the food that you're eating. So I've always done it like this. During a bulk in the off season, food goes up incrementally, training volume goes up incrementally, and drug intake goes up incrementally. And on a cut, food intake goes down incrementally. Training volume goes down, but intensity goes up incrementally. And drug intake also goes up incrementally, assuming you don't have to make weight for a particular weight class. This way, you always make gains, right? Muscularity and strength-wise. But during a bulk, obviously, your body fat levels are going up. And during a cut, obviously, the body fat levels are going down. But there's different ways to skin the cat, man. And of course, if you're happy with your muscularity and strength, you don't need to use as much drugs during a cut. That's why I usually recommend people also during a cut or to cut during a cruise when the overall intent is to make phenomenal gains during a bulk. Because this way you clean out, reduce the stress in your body from a training perspective, a drug perspective, and a food perspective, and then you start your next bulk fresh. But if you're cutting into a contest where everything goes and you need to fucking win, then anything goes regarding the performance enhancing drugs also, with the rate limiting factor being your health, right? Obviously. All right, Thomas. Your growth hormone dosing recommendations is 1 IU per 250, 1 IU growth hormone per day for 250 milligrams steroids per week. Right, but why is that? In my 10, 12 years of bodybuilding coaching and 15 years of enhanced bodybuilding and doing research for 25 years in bodybuilding, I feel that ratio is the most productive. Same as the ratio of 250 milligrams testosterone to 25 milligrams aromasin, or testosterone in a 1-to-1 ratio with a DHT derivative like Proviron or Masterone, or testosterone derivative being Boldenone. Right? It seems to control the conversion of testosterone into estradiol favorably for most people. And again, body fat levels aside and individual aromatase enzyme expression aside, and overall aromatase inhibiting micronutrient intake like zinc, for example, right, or nicotine, or anabasine, or cotinine, right? All that aside, a 1-to-1 ratio of test and test versus Masterone Primo or Boldenone seems to work well for most people. And this ratio of 1 IU of growth hormone per 250 IU, 1 IU growth hormone per day for every 250 milligrams of steroids per week works quite well for most people. There's absolutely no scientific literature to back this up. This is all rooted in experience. And out of all the guys that are out there, all the drug educators that are out there, I'm one of the few that has coached the longest besides the guys over at the Think Big Bodybuilding Media channel. I mean, they're also great educators. But if you put, if you watch Blood, Sweat, and Gear, you have Scott McNally, who's been coaching longer than I have. Ken Skip Hill is the OG online coach. He's been coaching the longest out of anybody besides Chris Aceto. And then Andrew Barry, who's also been coaching longer than I have. So those three aside, I think I'm one of the longest coaching steroid educators out there, or one of the few that has a YouTube channel. And based on my personal experience coaching a good amount of athletes, I would say that 1 IU growth hormone per day for every 250 milligrams of steroids that you take per week is a very good ratio to get started. So 500 milligrams of steroids could be any or 2 IUs, 3 IUs of growth hormone. And anything over that I feel is wasted when it comes to overall accrual of new muscle tissue. Will you get more fat loss, more fullness out of increasing the dose to, say, 8 IUs of growth hormone? I'm sure of it. But will you put on more muscle tissue compared to 3 IUs of growth hormone? I highly doubt it. And again, this sets some guidelines to, to get people to make the most amount of gains for the least amount of money spent. And here we go. About 8 patients using 18 IUs of growth hormone per day without any steroids, and that seems to be beneficial for muscle growth. So 8 patients don't grow any muscle tissue. The 18 IUs of growth hormone that they take per day is to prevent muscle wasting. Muscle wasting through the anti-catabolic effects that such a high dose of growth hormone has. So the same can be said for Anavar, is an anti-muscle wasting medication, right? That's why it's prescribed in certain cases of sarcopenia, for example, burn victims. So if an H patient is wasting their muscle away and growth hormone is able to mitigate that, then that is the dose that they take. If an H patient goes on steroids on top of this growth hormone dose, they will get, of course, more muscle growth than the growth hormone is going to potentiate through the synergy, but they would still need to run their growth or their testosterone dose quite high, or anabolic androgenic steroid intake dose quite high, to elicit more of an anabolic response. And feel free to go up to 18 IUs of growth hormone per day and do that for 6 months without steroids. See how much muscle you gain. It's not going to be as much as growth hormone plus steroids. And the muscle that you grow from steroids alone is not going to be as much as the combination of steroids plus growth hormone. And I would say with this 1-to-1 ratio, or this 1 IU growth hormone per day ratio to 250 milligrams steroids per week, you can probably half the dose of steroids. So instead of a gram of steroids, you run 500 milligrams of steroids with 2 or 3 IUs of growth hormone, and you should get similar results. Again, that's based on experience, no scientific evidence to back that up. But I feel confident in my abilities, having coached so many people over the years, that is going to be correct for the large majority of people that are out there. So again, feel free to give it a try. 18 IUs of growth hormone per day if you can afford it. Run it for 6 months, see how much muscle you gain. Then add in 250 milligrams of testosterone with an aromatase inhibitor. If more you gain over the first 6 months, it will be substantial. And then reduce your growth hormone dose to 1 or 2 IUs. You will continue to make gains. Yeah, you will continue to make gains, because now you have synergy between the testosterone and the growth hormone, and you didn't need that much growth hormone to elicit an anabolic response on top of the testosterone or anabolic steroids that you were taking. All right. So why would we limit it to 1 IU per? Yeah, so I just explained it and you said thank you. Okay. Long-winded answer. And again, guys, I don't want you to spend money unnecessarily. So, right? So this is why I like a multitude of different compounds, because 1 + 1 is 3. And if you do 1 + 1 + 1 is 7, right? And imagine if you have 7 different compounds, all at low and effective dosages. I mean, I've been doing this for decades now. And, this is one of the reasons why most of my guys are healthy. But it also means that the barrier of entry and the knowledge or requirement is so much higher, because you don't go on test only an aromatase inhibitor, cookie cutter TRT, or cookie cutter, steroid.com cycles. You go and test the growth hormone, insulin, and IGF-1, LR3, or a DES, or whatever IGF-1 you can find, and perhaps a DHT derivative on top to control your estrogen and elicit more of a cosmetic response. keep the water retention at bay, and then maybe telmisartan to control your blood pressure, or nebivolol to preserve calories and control your blood pressure, and prevent negative heart remodeling. So it's never as simple as just running one compound at a high dose. It's better to, let's say 18 IUs of growth hormone. How much money can you, 18 IUs, right? Let's say the going rate is $5 for that much. It's $90 a day, yeah, times 30. That's $2,700 a month. Now, most people would not be able to spend that on a cycle. So let's do $500 per month, right? We have an ampule of test, let's say $5, right? High quality pharmaceutical test, $5. You need on a 4.5 week, 4.5 times 5, that's $23 a month. Cheap AF. Now throw in an aromatase inhibitor, let's say 50 cents per tablet at one tablet of aromasin per 1 ampule of testosterone. Right, so we have 4.5. Oh no, that's not true, because we're doing 500 milligrams per week. So that's double, right? Okay, so that's $45 for the cycle, 500 milligrams a test. And then we have 50 cents times 4.5 times 2 per week is, oh, is that correct? 4.5 times 4 times 2, $4.5. So that's $50 for the test in the aromasin. Then you put 2 IUs of growth hormone on top per day, also $5, so 5 times 2 times 30, $300. So now we're at $350. Let's say 100 micrograms IGF-1. So that's $6 per day, give or take, IGF-1 LR3, because not everybody can get Increlex, times 21 days, because you should do 21 days on, 10 days off. $6, 126 plus 350 is 476. And then the insulin, $25 worth of insulin. Let's say that's 10 IUs per day. Is that correct? Lantus is a bit more expensive, but let's say 10 IUs of Lantus per day. So 500 tests, 2 IUs of growth hormone, 10 IUs of long-acting insulin, Lantus, an aromatase inhibitor, and 100 micrograms IGF-1. $500 per month. You think you're going to get more of a response on 18 IUs of growth hormone per day, solo, for $2,700 versus this $500 cycle? I think not. I think not. And for that $2,200, you can do a consultation and buy the ebooks every single month. You're welcome. No, but actually you should spend that on high quality food, high quality gym membership, taking your girlfriend out to dinner. Because 18 IUs of growth hormone is only for the most elite guys out there. And guess what? They're getting sponsored left and right. They're making $25,000 a month. And that $2,700 that they're spending on Serostim, that they're probably not spending $2,700 on, but probably $2,000 on, right? Because favors and etc. Right? That's a good return of investment. But if you make $5,000 a month or $3,000 a month, then it's definitely not worth it. Maybe spend $500 on your cycle, leverage low dosages of the bioidentical compounds, and you know, spend an equal amount of money on food, if not more. Right? Spending $500 per month on food, ideally $700 per month on food, high quality food that is easy to digest. Let's do it. Well, I think you already answered my question. This sounds great. Yeah. You're welcome, Thomas. You're welcome. All right. I think we've been going on for, let's do one more question, then we're going to go public. I believe you decided to run Increlex post-workout to minimize systemic effects. Do you still think this idea, and would you do the same with LR3? So I did it sub-Q for a while. I did it pre-bed for a while. I did it post-workout for a while. I did it pre-workout for a while. I mixed in some IGF-1 LR3 from Amino Asylum. And long story short, I think that pre-workout bilaterally is still the best because you get crazy pumps, which you don't get if you do it post-workout. And it seems that the recovery is exactly the same. But since I haven't run it for a very long time, and I'm not on steroids, and I'm relying on muscle memory, I used to be much bigger than this. Good times. I can't say if the post-workout versus pre-workout administration protocol is going to elicit more of a new growth response, one versus the other. So unfortunately, we'll never get that experiment because I'm not interested in getting back up to 118, 120 kilos. So for enjoyment in the gym purposes, I'm going to do the Increlex pre-workout because who doesn't like a good pump, right? Good pump in the gym, good pump in the bedroom, good pump when you inflate the tires of your car, right? You get that nice feeling when you go over the road, right? Where the tires are really gripping the roads because it's so inflated, properly inflated. You have that unique sound. So yeah, a good pump everywhere. That is my favorite way to go. All right, guys, I think it's bathroom time and it's been 1 hour already. So let's go public. And then fingers crossed that not everybody's still watching Paul Barnett's live stream. But I'm sure people will start to trickle in as they come along. All right, bathroom break. Break. BRB. All right. I'm going to press this beautiful mute button on the Wave XLR, and then fingers crossed you can't hear me urinate. Let's go. What's up, guys? Let me sit properly. Man, it's getting cold. It's getting cold in Thailand. I just came back from the United States, and it was cold there. We had like one nice day in LA, and now it's cold here. What's up, bro? What's good? All right, guys. How does the audio sound? I finally got my Shure mic. Let me show it on camera real quick. There you go. Oh, it's too heavy. Look at that. And so I'm going to put this off camera and then put this properly. A little bit lower, please. I just had it set up properly. All right. How's this? All right. With the family, but audio is good. Okay, good. So I got a Wave XLR right off camera. I still have to put this cloud lifter in between, but I only have one XLR cable. And then hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better because I feel that this XLR cable is picking up a little bit of background noise. So we're going to put this cloud lifter in there. And well, I bought it and unboxed it, so now I might as well use it, right? And then hopefully everything sounds nice and dandy. I might still have a little bit of clipping here and there because I'm using Crisp, some sort of application. remove all the background noise. So that's the clicking of the mouse, the laptop, the man, I always forget the name, the air conditioning, and the fan that's sitting here because I'm trying to keep this room cool, obviously. So there might still be a little bit of audio clipping when I'm breathing, but I think this is the best audio quality I've had so far. Certainly a lot better than that fucking Blue Yeti mic. Terrible. All right. Let's see. Well, start posting your questions, guys. I guess the Anabolic Bodybuilding podcast is still going on. So we'll have to wait for Paul Burnett to finish. Which, oh, just finished. Did he finish because I'm starting? Shit, I hope not. Oh no, Paul, what are you doing? All right, let's get started with the questions. Kemi. Hey, Steve. Started Nandrolone phenylpropionate 300 milligrams per week with 400 milligrams test. Started having back pumps and like muscle cramp pains. Do you think it's a gear issue, the quality of the MPP being on test? No problem. Well, you just increased your anabolic load with 300 milligrams. So, you know, maybe the increment is too high. Maybe your estrogen levels are too high because you're not mentioning anything about an aromatase inhibitor. And nandrolone plus testosterone without an aromatase inhibitor is estrogen galore, estrogen heaven. That is going to make you retain water. And those back pumps are one of the reasons is excessive water retention. So if you look in the mirror and you look like the Michelin man, estrogen might be high. Now, don't haphazardly start to take, you know, an aromatase inhibitor, but let's see. You know, you need to do your blood work first. And I see you're already taking taurine. So that was my second recommendation. So stay on top of the taurine, stay on 10,000 milligrams until you do your blood work, and then make further adjustments to make sure that, you know, your estrogen levels and your water retention are, you know, under control. And in the meantime, also look into telmisartan to mitigate some of the water retention, which can exacerbate the lower back pumps that you're currently experiencing, to at least get some immediate relief. Do you need to telmisartan continuously? Probably not, unless you like the blood pressure reduction and the potential mitigation of left ventricular hypertrophy that a nandrolone seems to potentiate with continuous use. So, all right. So no water bloating. I'm on an AI. All right. Well, in that case, maybe take the nandrolone out. See what happens. Maybe nandrolone is just causing too much anabolism in lower back pumps. And otherwise, well, this kind of sucks, but what I did to mitigate the lower back pumps, you know, indefinitely, besides the taurine supplementation that I'm on indefinitely, is just telling your lower back to go fuck itself and do what is it called? Not a reverse hyper, a regular hyperextensions. Regular hyperextensions every single day at the end of your workout. That's what I did for a while. And then the lower back pumps get really, really bad for a while, and then they slowly go away because you kind of stretch the muscle from the inside, and then the fascia is stretched, and then it doesn't really happen anymore. So that would be my last recommendation. All right. Zane, what's your recommended acne prevention protocol? I mean, dude, I have so many videos about this, and it's like everybody asks this every single week. So I'm going to mention it briefly. All right. Follow an elimination diet so you don't eat inflammatory food, remove all the processed foods, remove all the dairy products. That includes whey protein. The only dairy product that is still approved is yogurt with probiotic live cultures. So there could be Greek yogurt, something like that. All right, that's the only yogurt that's approved because it, you know, the live cultures kind of pre-digest the lactose that's in there. All the other dairy products, remove it. Check the ingredient list if it has lactose or you know, sources of dairy. Remove all of that. Remove anything that's inflammatory. That's probably the processed foods that you're eating. Then shower regularly. Kill all the bacteria on your skin with doxycycline. Then repopulate your gut microbiome with raw foods. And if you're on steroids, make sure you do daily subcutaneous microadministrations to prevent hormonal fluctuations. And then last but not least, watch all those acne videos that I have on my YouTube channel. And then the last resort would be Accutane, whether that's topical tretinoin cream or oral isotretinoin. low dose to start, and then building your way up if needed, if desired, to remove the acne permanently. But you will still get acne even if you do a high dose Accutane for a longer period of time, which is what I did a couple of years ago. So yeah. Oh shit. I didn't have time to research this. Fuck. I totally forgot. Let me make a note. It's been a crazy week, guys. Let me make a note. 1 second. Ask me next weekend. Then again, whatever I research, you can probably find on Google as well. I never recommend the stack anymore, dude. So I can't really remember. So ask me next week. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that, dude. It's been a crazy week. I'm trying to catch up back with consultations and all the work that I neglected when I was in the United States, and I've been horribly sick since I came back. Actually, since the Olympia, but it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I lost my voice, and the time zone difference. I mean, you don't want to know. What are your thoughts on people hating on collagen protein, calling it an incomplete amino acid profile and that it's inferior to normal protein sources like whey? Probably the guys that are being sponsored by whey companies and that can't interpret scientific evidence correctly. I see once in a while there's another short out there saying that this study showed that the collagen protein didn't do anything for collagen synthesis, with the literature XYZ. And then it's always one study and it's never in the context of athletes. So I've been taking collagen since a decade because I didn't want to get the pimples from whey protein. And since connective tissue and skin and muscle is predominantly made out of collagen, for me it made logical sense to start supplementing with collagen to have all the building blocks available at the right time. Doesn't mean you go on a collagen only diet. Duh. You supplement collagen around the workout when it's probably the best beneficial, and then feel free to combine that with whey protein to kind of flavor the collagen shake, because collagen kind of tastes like ass unless it's flavored. All right, so Gorilla Mind is a great collagen supplement with several flavors available. They have collagen 1, 2, 3, and hyaluronic acid and vitamin C. So it's a one-stop shop for a collagen supplement. It has everything in there for collagen synthesis and deposition. So and flavor, right? So you don't have to mix it with whey protein and potentially, risk getting horrible acne. So, just keep taking your collagen, and over time you will see that your skin is better, your hair quality is better, the formation of stretch marks is gone, and whatever the scientific literature says is only one part of the story. And until I see somebody make a video with the complete breakdown, and I don't even think that Physionic has made a breakdown on collagen protein, but I could be mistaken. He's been MIA for the last couple of weeks, probably got enough subscribers now. Even if the scientific literature is thin, my personal experience working with a lot of bodybuilders over the years tells me that through collagen supplementation, that health is better, connective tissue is stronger, skin texture is better, and recovery is better. So, and that's on top of the complete proteins that you have in the form of eggs and steak and chicken and salmon and any other animal meat-based protein source. Like collagen is just a supplement. That nutrition still needs to be in place. So, yeah, all those guys that just review one scientific literature. I mean, that's not what I do. When we reviewed the Boldenone regarding kidneys, we looked at all of it. All of the fucking scientific literature. That's what a researcher does. Not one study. Not one study. All of it. So if you see somebody quoting one study and they barely read the abstract and then made an Instagram short about it, unfollow, fuck these people. They're retards. They don't know what they're talking about. And most of these guys are just hiding behind scientific evidence that's paper thin anyway, because they lack the experience, right? A lot of the people are guilty of this. They lack the experience. They didn't coach as many people, or they didn't coach as all. They were shit bodybuilders, or never bodybuilded in general, or were never even an athlete. And they just extrapolate from scientific evidence wrongly because they can't filter it through their experience because they don't have any knowledge. So again, do your own research. And even if you see something on this YouTube channel that doesn't sound, true or too good to be true, or doesn't sound correct, again, do further research. And if the research is thin and it still sparks your interest, okay, the barrier of entry is usually the purchase of one collagen supplement or one over-the-counter supplement or one performance-enhancing drug that I talk about. Give it a try for yourself. You turn that information that you found online into knowledge through experience, right? Information plus experience is knowledge. And the difference between guys that have been doing this for decades and the guys that are marketing or milking the algorithm is knowledge. All right, Bill. Okay. Elite FTS podcast was killer. I think you're the most passionate guy when star discussion comes to the table. Mark Bell was awesome too. Keep him coming, brother. Yes, we have one more podcast with Nail Naiga, and then we're going to do a boatload of podcasts on this YouTube channel. And the list of people that are going to come on over the next couple of months is very, very long. Yeah, I'm starting to schedule now. You guys will be surprised because it seems that everybody's watching the Vigorous Steve YouTube channel now. So instead of me asking, people are not begging, but are very, very willing to come on the podcast here. And having 100,000 subscribers certainly helps also, or close to it. Right, we're going to break that pretty soon. All right, here we go. Matteo Santaniello. What information is needed to determine the frequency of administration of any drug? Thank you, Big Steve. Well, the half-life and the metabolism, right? So, but ideally, you just take it every day or twice per day. So let's say the half-life is 12 hours. You would take it at least twice per day, but ideally 3 times per day. So with steroids, testosterone, propionate, enanthate, cypionate, or funky esters like acetate or decanoate, Nandrolone, undecanoate, testosterone, undecanoate. I would still do daily administrations just for the sake of having these drugs in your system at a normal concentration throughout the day. And with growth hormone, there's something to say for that. And even for long-acting insulin, there's something to say for that. I mentioned that in the insulin ebook. Maybe you don't do more than 25 or 30 IUs of Lantus per injection, but maybe you do like 30 IUs in the morning and then 10 IUs of Lantus before bed. If you're very, very, very experienced and you understand the effects on your blood glucose levels, right? So the half-life is needed and the metabolism is needed, right? And the onset maybe, but the route of administration. So do some research and then determine how you want to proceed. But most people go off with daily administrations every single day for most drugs, unless it's recreational drugs. Message. All right, Iron Grids. On the topic of pre-workout carbs, what are some of the better, simpler carbs that don't make you get a sugar crash later in the day? Tried 2 medium bananas, felt a bit nauseated later in the day. Really? From bananas? Maybe those were not ripe. You live in you live in a country where bananas are not grown. So maybe eat an apple or something along those lines that is grown there, so it doesn't get plucked or taken from the tree when it's not ripe, and then they artificially ripen that on transit. That's the problem with bananas. Like here in Thailand, the best bananas, best pineapples, best mangoes, best watermelons, because of this climate, right? Apples, strawberries, raspberries, any kind of berry, they kind of shit because Thai climate or Southeast Asia climate is not made for those kinds of fruits. So stick with a fruit that is natively grown in the country that you live in. And then otherwise, high-brain cyclic dextrins intra-workout seems to work quite well. 100K on the way. Dr. Dean St. Mart, one of the smartest guys in our fitness industry who is still not on YouTube regularly. Dean, hurry the fuck up. Hurry the fuck up. Stop writing articles and get on YouTube. Iron Grit, almost at 100K. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, Man Medicine, I will still get on the podcast soon. Yeah. Well, I still need to reach out, but I am reaching out to other people, so I got to schedule accordingly. I hate reaching out and then say, yeah, I have a time in 2 months' time. So, what are your thoughts on Broderick Chavez approach where your testosterone dose stops at being a sports TRT at 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight? Then the rest is anabolics to meet specific needs. I'm not really familiar with Broderick's approach. I never really followed what he was doing because I never really followed anybody's steroid advice, honestly. Just figured out my own. I saw Broderick at Mr. Olympia. I wanted to say hi, but he was frowning a lot, and he was way shorter than I anticipated. So I wasn't really sure if it was Broderick, but later I realized it was Broderick. But he seemed to be in a bad mood, so I didn't want to break his bad mood by saying, "Hey, what's up? I'm Steve. We both hate Victor Black," and then do the maximum bro fist and to have shared common interest, and then discuss steroids. So maybe next year. But yeah, I mean, again, there's many different ways to skin the cat. So if Broderick says 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, so let's say that would be 300 milligrams of test for me, and then the rest is anabolics. That's fine. If it works, it works. I prefer high test, with an equal amount of primobolan or masteron to keep estrogen at bay. But I don't mind running high test with an aromatase inhibitor either. I mean, I got the best results out of high test and high GH and high insulin and high IGF-1. So, I don't know. Follow who you like. Follow who you think is the most knowledgeable and it looks the most healthy and, is the most liked. I guess, not saying that I am, but, Broderick seems to piss off people quite a bit, but maybe it's just too straightforward and honest. I don't know. Dean, get busy, dude. Vicarian. Any downsides to using diuretics like diazide in the off season once or twice a week for purely cosmetic reasons to reduce excess water? Well, if it's prescribed, I mean, Chase Irons was using low dose diazide or hydrochlorothiazide without the triamterene to keep the water retention off and the blood pressure at bay. So I'm not against it, but I would feel that frequent use of diuretics is a last resort. If you can't manage it with electrolyte intake, water intake, cardio, telmisartan, and maybe what is it called? That over-the-counter supplements, Carditone. Well, if you can't manage it with that, okay, maybe do a diazide. Of course, if you're on a boatload of GH and tests and the food, then maybe those methods don't really work anymore. You need a little bit of diazide to keep the water off. Dean, writing here while listening. I mean, you're taking all my advice. All right, nice work. Nice work. No, man, keep working on those books, Dean. We need print for some knowledge because it's sometimes very difficult to articulate particular ideas in a video format. Could you please drop a video on your wife's fertility stack, vitamin stack when she's pregnant, when post-pregnancy for breastfeeding, how to avoid? No, I'm not going to do that. No, because my wife is a normal, healthy woman, and the way that the world works is that sometimes you put out content that is just going to create a stir. So whatever we do for fertility purposes and for our baby, that's what we're going to do for ourselves. Because the last thing I need is a boatload of meddling people or people meddling into our practices, which we feel through research is the best practices for us. And since I'm not a fertility expert, I don't feel that it's a good video topic for this YouTube channel. There are much better YouTube channel when it comes to fertility, but I will make a video about how to restore fertility in the context of taking steroids in the past for men. Right? I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And just because I know enough for me and my wife doesn't mean I need to make videos about it. So please do your own research. This video is about steroids and not about fertility. Right? Performance enhancing drugs. That's what it's about. And just look at the fertility videos that I make. They got fuck all views. So why bother? Are we still live? Holy fuck. I pressed the button on this. Pressed the button on this new microphone, on its new mouse, and it went back. I gotta disable those buttons. All right, my bad. Am I back? What the hell, dude? What the hell? All right, is everything working? My God, man. Is everything working? All right. Well, definitely don't press that back button. Man, all right, where were we? Yeah, so no fertility videos coming when it comes to this. Hey, Steve, if somebody is experiencing gyno issues due to progesterone, even with 2 IU's growth hormone, 150 milligrams decadurabolin, 1 gram testosterone enanthate, is already taking vitamin B6, P5P, and L-tyrosine along with Arimidex, what else can be done? Well, so if the progesterone is high, that's probably the nandrolone detecting as progesterone. And it means prolactin might still be high or estrogen might still be high. Again, did you check those levels? Right, that is the most important thing in this context, because I don't want you to haphazardly make changes without doing your blood work, because maybe the gyno is just water retention or just inflammation that isn't, progressing into gyno yet. So please check your progesterone, prolactin, and estrogen levels. If one of those are off, make sure that you make the appropriate adjustments. And if none of those are off, take the nandrolone out. Maybe it's just making your nipples puffy. And that means that, that nandrolone is not for you. And maybe you should take a little bit of primobolan or masterone instead to have an opposing effect on the gyno tissue. Because, at least masterone was medically used to reduce symptoms of breast cancer, which might overlap into similar effects when it comes to reduction or mitigation of gynecomastia tissue. All right. Now, here, don't forget the super chat. Andrew Garcia, on your push-pull leg split 3 days a week, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. So that's from the free article that you can find on my website. Let me link it down below. And my website is super slow lately due to the latest update of WordPress. Oh, now it loads pretty quickly. All right. Well, let's see. Articles. Training. Yeah, let's let that load in the meantime. So he's doing 2-hour-long workouts. Do I keep doing this or stick with your original 1 working set per exercise? So if you're doing 3 working sets, that's a bit much. I would reduce it to 1 working set and then a back off set. And maybe you're just doing too many exercises. So a 2-hour workout is a bit long, but it's not unheard of. I mean, I've done that for my push-pull legs splits quite a bit. But then again, that was in the off season with a boatload of food and a boatload of testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin. So again, if your recovery is in place, then you might be able to get away with it. But most people do better with 1.5 hours worth of training. Let's see how to design your own push-pull leg split with examples. There you go. Link is down below. Save. Because I usually keep forgetting to do that. So I would reduce the working sets. Do 1 working set with a back off set afterwards. So you maybe do 6 to 8 to 10 reps on your working set, and then you back it down to 75 to 60% of your working weight to get, let's say, 8, 12, 15 reps in, again, depending on the rep range. And then you do 1 field set for the next exercise, then 1 working set, and then 1 back off set. So you get 3 total sets. 1 is a field set to kind of acclimatize to the new movement pattern, and then 1 working set, and then 1 back off set. And sometimes you don't even need the field set. Maybe you can go straight into the working set, right? Or maybe your rest time is just too long and you need to look into Mildronate and amoxapine and hypoxin, right? Which I'll have videos about in the Endurance Deep Dive video series. So yeah, look there. What are your thoughts on low dose testosterone just enough for adequate estrogen levels and high dose nandrolone? Again, if it works, it works. I wouldn't recommend it. I would rather do the opposite. But some people prefer that, right? That's why we have guys like Ty and Clark advocating high nandrolone and HCG, or high nandrolone and low dose test, or maybe a balance between both, right? So give it a try. it's not the end of the world if you get a good response out of that experiment. And if the experiment fails, then at least you tried, you got your hands dirty, and you know for future reference that it's not going to work for you, instead of just wondering and asking me about it. What do you think about, you know? I think you can get away with 100 milligrams of test and a gram of nandrolone and get adequate estrogen levels. Yeah. Click that like button. Yes, please. Bhaskar, if DHEA and pregnenolone supplements have higher dosing per serving, can you do their dosing protocol every other day? Progesterone versus 17 oxyhydroxyprogesterone for pregnenolone levels. So pregnenolone doesn't get converted from those two. It only goes one way. So if you want to raise your pregnenolone levels and you get a pregnenolone supplement that has a higher dose serving, you only get those 100 milligram tablets, which is developed for the elderly. What you can do is a backfill a 3 milliliter syringe with a powdered pregnenolone from a capsule or tablet, and then you draw in, bacteriostatic water or Everclear or anything that keeps it sterile. You shake that up, let everything dissolve. So you draw in 1 milliliter, and then you have 100 milligrams pregnenolone in there, and then you dump 0.1 milliliter or 10 IUs. Well, it's not an insulin syringe; it's a 3 milliliter syringe. You dump a 0.1 milliliter into your morning coffee. It will taste pretty bad, right? If you put bacteriostatic water or Everclear in there. Okay, so you just dump 0.1 milliliter in a glass of water and then drink that. And then you dose that way, right? So you get 10 milligrams of the pregnenolone that you want to take, or 12.5 or 25 milligrams, whatever you want to do. So dissolve it and then dose it with a syringe. I would not do it every day. I prefer every day, because if you do it every other day, of course, the intake is going to be double that high. And then more of this pregnenolone is going to convert into progesterone. You don't give it adequate time to be metabolizing through the steroids. It's sulfatase, steroid, SDS, steroid sulfatase. Is it steroid sulfatase? STS? Oh, yes. Steroid sulfatase. Let's see, no, the other direction. That's steroid sulfatase. I need the other direction. Steroid sulfatase catalyzes the conversion of sulfated steroid precursors into the free steroids. So we need pregnenolone sulfate metabolized or into, what's the other one? Sometimes Wikipedia really fails you. I'm sure Dr. Dean St. Martin is laughing his ass off and screaming at the screen. No, this is the right one. Sulfotransferase? Okay, steroid sulfotransferase. Okay, here we go. So, steroid sulfotransferase 2B1A converts pregnenolone into pregnenolone sulfate, and then pregnenolone sulfate is converted into pregnenolone through steroid sulfatase. Man, it sucks that you have to consult Google sometimes. I should know this shit, but there's so much to know and so little time to retain it. Okay, so if you take a high-dose pregnenolone supplement, a good amount of that is going to convert into progesterone instead of it converting into pregnenolone sulfate through steroid sulfotransferase activity. Yeah. And that way you have a buffer of pregnenolone for later use when you're not supplementing with pregnenolone through exogenous routes. So the steroid sulfatase metabolizes the sulfate from the pregnenolone and makes pregnenolone bioavailable again. But it's better to do that every single day for stable pregnenolone and stable pregnenolone sulfate levels instead of converting into progesterone, and then your progesterone is too high, and then you get, maybe some. Sorry, guys. This I don't know. Every time I grab it, I just keep touching that little thing. I didn't do it in the beginning. My bad. All right, where are we? MK. I use testosterone over 10 years now. Never recovered. He never recovered. I'm taking Clomid. Now, it's not a joke on you. That's like a quote from Get Big back in the days. So what happened to so and so? He had a he got outed and he never recovered. Right? It's a meme. It's not against you, MK. So he never recovered from his testosterone use regarding its HPTA. I'm taking Clomid now and LH and total T increase, but not FSH. How can I increase FSH for fertility? So my LH and FSH never really came up over 2.5 milli IUs per milliliter. That's why I decided not to come off this time. I want my FSH and LH or ATG at middle top of the reference range for good fertility, which my semen parameters are quite good. But the age of 40, it's only 5% chance to get your wife pregnant every round of trying around ovulation. So it takes a while. So in my case, I'm supplementing with ATG to fulfill the LH pathway and exogenous FSH to fulfill the FSH pathway because my pituitary simply is non-cooperative, even on Clomid. So how can you increase FSH for fertility? By administering it from exogenous sources in the form of Merck F recombinant follicle stimulating hormone. Why subject yourself to Clomid any longer than is needed? And even though, recombinant ATG and recombinant FSH is more expensive, I would still say that it's better for your health than long-term Clomid therapy because Clomid has all kinds of side effects through estrogen blockade. By inhibiting the metabolism of domosterol into cholesterol. What is domosterol? Yeah, domosterol into cholesterol. So now your cholesterol levels go down, which might look good on paper, but long term it might not be good for your overall cell membrane isolation, which is what is cholesterol. It's been a long day. What is cholesterol made of? Right? The membranes of your cells partially contain triglycerides and cholesterol molecules. So you need a good amount of cholesterol through the normal conversion of domosterol into or dermosterol. Domosterol. Is it domosterol? Dermosterol. Man, so many mistakes today. Jeez, what the fuck is it? I want to know. Why do I do Clomid dermosterol? Desmosterol. Jesus fucking Christ. Desmosterol. Okay. My bad, guys. Drawing a blank. So, when you take Clomid, the metabolism of desmosterol is inhibited, and thus cholesterol levels go down, which might look good on your blood work. But again, you need a certain amount of cholesterol for your cells to function correctly. And cholesterol, by blocking the estrogen receptors, obviously is going to lower IGF-1, which you might think is good for anti-aging purposes, but it's not good for recovery. And Clomid obviously is going to increase your liver enzymes and clotting risk. And why would you want to have clotting risk in this day and age? So I would just go with exogenous HCG and FSH and throw the Clomid in the towel, because if you're not recovering after 4 to 6 weeks of Clomid use, and your LH and FSH levels are still low, and they might still stay low for 6 months, and even after 6 months, your LH and FSH levels might be 2 milli-IUs per milliliter, 3 at most, which probably is not sufficient for adequate fertility. And in the meantime, you could have been pinning LH or ATG and FSH and recovered all of your fertility parameters. Rest in peace. Yeah. So many Google searches today. Need a good night's sleep. That's what I need. Did I miss one? Where is this? Oh, here it is. All right, I'm 18. I took one andro topically at 200 milligrams for 3 weeks, as well as growth hormones 5 IU. I got my blood work done, and my testosterone is 118 nanograms per deciliter. Do I have hypogonadism, or is this a result of these supplements? What should I do? Okay, so since you're 18, you're of adult age. You made a stupid mistake, but it's not the end of the world. I would wait maybe 4 weeks, let the one andro metabolize, see if your levels bounce back, because in many cases, 18-year-olds that do stupid experiments for 3 weeks like this, they don't need a post-cycle therapy. You just need the one andro to metabolize from your system. And then once that's metabolized and negative effect on your HPTA is gone, then luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone will slowly come up, and your testosterone levels will recover to normal levels. And if that's not the case, 4 weeks from now, which is then at least 4 weeks, but ideally 6 weeks after you stop the one andro, if testosterone levels, LH and FSH levels are not up by that time, then you might need a post-cycle therapy in the form of Clomid and Nolvadex. And I have a video about that. It's called the post-cycle therapy video for dummies, I think. Give that one a watch, or buy the the post-cycle therapy ebook where I explain that. But long story short, you might need 50 milligrams Clomid or enclomiphene before bed for 2 to 4 weeks to block the estrogen receptors. Again, we don't know your estrogen levels, but blocking the estrogen receptors is generally a good idea to recover luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone secretion from the pituitary gland. That might take 2 weeks, it might take 4 weeks, it might take 6 weeks. I don't think you need Nolvadex. I don't think you need a higher dose than Clomid because you're young. I don't think you need a higher dose because the suppression was only 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 7 weeks at maximum. And I think 2 weeks or 4 weeks on Clomid is going to be sufficient. Again, do your blood work frequently. Don't just take testosterone. Check your testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone. And then fingers crossed, everything is going to play out. And write it off as experience, right? We all make stupid mistakes, but it's not the end of the world. Next time you can take steroids again is when you're 25. All right, so see you in 7 years. Skipped your super chat. Oh, sorry. I was bamboozled by the $20. So, D3. Here we are. Did HCG, I guess. The G is next to the H on the keyboard. So I did human chorionic gonadotropin monotherapy, 1,000 IUs 5 times a week. Holy shit. I got my estradiol to 95 picograms per milliliter because I screw up my AI management. Have Aromasin and Arimidex on hand. Which should I run? Well, the estrogen is already present. So all you can do is prevent further conversion of the testosterone that you're secreting from the testicles with this high dose HCG monotherapy. And I would shift more towards Aromasin. 6.25 milligrams 2 times per week should be enough to bring your estrogen down to, let's say, 45 picograms per milliliter, assuming your total testosterone is at the top of the reference range. All right, so what is your total testosterone levels? D3. You confirmed that it's HCG. Not HCH. Is that human growth hormone or human chorionic gonadotropin? It's only 1 G apart from 2 different compounds. All right, was it Pictionary? Sounds like 2 vowels. People get it wrong and then you throw up the middle finger. It's not an instruction, it's just to flip them off. What is your total testosterone levels like? All right, we'll answer that later. Thomas still asking questions. What do you think is a viable idea to get to go to Turkey and buy genotropin pens for $85 a piece? Or could I go about taking these back to Belgium? Well, why didn't you have them shipped to Belgium, dude? I mean, what is a flight to Turkey? All right, here we're going to go to Google again. Skyscanners. From Belgium. Brussels International. 2, Turkey is probably Istanbul, right? Istanbul. I like financial questions. So any dates. All right, we're gonna. Oh, not in December. That's expensive. Let's say we go mid-December, 13 to 16. Submit. Return flight. 1 adult. Direct flights though, because the more often you change flight, the less your growth hormone is going to lose potency. All right. Oh, Lufthansa is only $200. But it's probably $300 by the time you pay for your luggage. And you still need checked-in luggage. So let's say it's $300. All right, and online, how much does a pen of genotropin cost? Let's go to the tried and proven anabolic pharmacist. All right, who sells genotropin pens from Turkey. All right, international prices. Genotropin. One genotropin pen without remail is $135. But maybe for Belgium you need a remail option. It's $170. So let's say you go for the cheapest option, $135 for a 12 milligram / 36 IU pen. Now you're paying $85, so you're saving $50, and the flight is $300. So when you buy 6 pens, you break even. If you buy 12 pens, you save $300. Now, is the risk of bringing in 12 pens worth saving $300? I think not. At least if it gets stuck in the mail, you can always plead the fifth, play dumb. So I didn't order that. Right? But when you have it in your luggage, 12 pens of genotropin, and you need a lot of HIV to cover that. So just buy it from anabolic pharmacists. And if you want to go to Turkey, do it for a vacation. And if you want to fly to Turkey, I would rather fly to Turkey to buy Primobolan, because that's mad expensive online. But for genotropin, I wouldn't do it. All right, next one. Noir. Here we go. I'm a testosterone non-responder. Would 100 to 150 milligrams testosterone for the estrogen and 250 to 375 DHEA a week plus 10 milligram VAR cycle be worth a shot? Yes, I'm not against it. But when you say testosterone non-responder, do you mean you get uncontrollable side effects, or you simply don't get the anabolic response that you're after? So if you get uncontrollable side effects, but you still get an anabolic response, I would, 100 to 150 milligrams a test just for the estrogen, but you could get the same effect from HCG. Right? And at least you keep your nuts active that way. So maybe you do 1,000 IUs HCG or 500 IUs HCG 3 times a week, and then DHEA on top, and then 10 milligrams, with that for the collagen synthesis in synergy with the Nandrolone for joint protection through the lubrication of the synovial fluid in your joints. All right, that will be my approach. But if you didn't respond to testosterone from an anabolic perspective, you probably are not going to respond to Nandrolone from an anabolic perspective, because your diet, training, and overall health is off. Right? Or your GAC repeaters and your androgen receptors are just shit, and they barely attach and barely cause any androgen-mediated gene transcription. So, but it's worth a trial, right? So, assuming you're healthy and you're doing everything else right regarding nutrition, training, and supplementation, then I think it's worth a shot. Yeah, but you could replace the testosterone with HCG and, keep your nuts active. Or do like 50 milligrams a test and 250 IUs HCG 3 times a week. All right, give that a trial run. Running 540 milligrams testosterone, 300 milligrams Primo, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Injection protocol, or this is per shot, right? That's 1,500 tests, 900 Primo. Either way, it's probably 540 tests, 300 Primo weekly, split up Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Having erection issues and trouble maintaining it, what to do regarding this? Blood work. Blood work could be high prolactin, could be low estrogen, could be high estrogen, could be inflammatory response due to the carrier oil. Maybe you're not eating correctly. Maybe you're zinc deficient because you're not supplementing with micronutrients. on top of this increased androgenic and anabolic burden that you subject yourself to. So get some diagnoses done and then see what's going on. And then with that blood work, watch the libido videos. They contain everything you need to know to restore your libido. But with this, I can't really give you advice because this cycle seems fine to me. And it could be a laundry list of issues that is going on. So do blood work and then take it from there. Jason Middlekauf became a YouTube member. Welcome to the Vigorous crew, bro. Thank you for joining. Zane, is Clomid inferior to enclomiphene? Is there a scenario where Clomid would be better? Well, there's more scientific literature on Clomid, but most of the side effects from Clomid are allegedly coming from the zuclomiphene. Again, there's very little comparative study comparing zuclomiphene to enclomiphene regarding the side effects and the IGF-1 reduction and the clotting risk. So with enclomiphene, you can expect similar side effects as enclomid, but anecdotally, people respond to it better because they have less mental side effects. And I think dose by dose, like if you run 25 milligrams Clomid and 25 milligrams enclomiphene, I think luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone levels would be similar. But since there's no comparative results regarding clotting risks and IGF-1 reduction and all the negative side effects, I would still inject HCG and FSH. And trust me, dude, if enclomiphene was the way to go, or enclomid was the way to go, I would be doing it right now. It's easy. You take a tablet before bed and you shut the fuck up. But with the clotting risk and the side effects with long-term selective estrogen receptor modulators, I feel that the more expensive and the more cumbersome approach is the more healthy approach. So, but take that for all it's worth. It's not like I know what I'm talking about. And it's not like my fertility levels are fucking insane. Let's see. MK. Thanks. I have Fostimon, follicle stimulating hormone by IPSA, not Gonal F. Okay, perfect. How should I dose it with the HCG? Would HMG work? And if so, what dose? Any side effects of FSH? Yeah, the wallet will be drained. No, but dude, I've been on FSH for months now, and it's the only thing that I notice is that my wallet is not happy. So it's very expensive. Luckily, Anabolic Pharmacist throws me, a couple pens of FSH here and there, because I do have a good referral, program in place. So yeah, if you want your FSH, Anabolic Pharmacist has got you covered. And if I do have a kid, then Uncle Anabolic Pharmacist would be christened in as one of the driving factors, just like he was for Chase Irons' his wife pregnancy. So if you have Fostimon FSH, that's fine. Is it recombinant or urine purified? That I'm not sure. But HMG is urine purified, and it also contains FSH. But I feel that 75 IUs of FSH from HMG brings my serum levels to lower levels compared to recombinant FSH from Gonal F produced by Merck. So 2.5 IUs or milli IUs per milliliter with HMG versus about 4 to 5 milli IUs per milliliter with recombinant FSH. What do you think is going to make your fertility levels better? Recombinant FSH. I mean, my fertility parameters are as follows. Per ejaculate, 550 million sperm as of last time checking. Let's see. It's about 4.5 milliliters or 5 milliliters. I can't really remember, but it was substantial. Yeah, the concentration per milliliter. Very high morphology, very high progressive motility, low DNA fragmentation. So I'm well beyond the capabilities of producing a child. But again, when you're 40 years old, the chances of getting your wife pregnant is, let's say, 5% when you're 40 years old. I think it's 20% when you're 30 years old and 5% when you're 40 years old. So it's still going to take a while. And if it doesn't happen within a year, then we might have to do IVF. Right? So, and it sucks that it takes so long. But I guess that's jokes on me, right? I want to be financially secure. I want to be financially secure. And then you're fucking financially secure. And then it still takes a year. Of course, I can make myself less financially secure by just going the IVF route, but I will say that we're having a lot of fun, conceiving. So why You know, like when my wife was pregnant, you know, I mean, I'm sure the desire to conceive would be less because I don't know, just that mentally it's not right. Putting your sexual organs that close to a child, I don't know, that mentally doesn't sit well with me. So I don't mind for a longer conception period and then having a super healthy baby. But if it happens next round, then so be it. Then I guess it's just you and me, buddy. Yeah. All right, Ryan. Oh, what's the dose? Jesus Christ. Sorry. 75 IUs every day brings my levels and most people's levels of follicle stimulating hormone in serum to about the middle of the reference range. So 75 IUs every other day would be about 2 to 3 milli-IUs per milliliter, and 75 IUs every single day, 4 to 5 IUs milli-IUs per milliliter, which is, you know, a normal range for most young men, let's say between 25 to 30, which is a good time to have kids from a biological perspective, but of course, from a mental maturity perspective and a financial perspective. I mean, in this day and age, kids are mad expensive, and everybody's trying to, take money out of you, especially governments. So, yeah, you might have to wait a little bit longer. All right, Ryan, sorry for the delay. What would you recommend for fatigue that won't show up on a comprehensive urinalysis? I train, plus I have a physical job. I get a lot of fatigue. Eat more foods and try to improve your sleep quality so the time that you do sleep is improved. And of course, you might want to do a Dutch urine test or Dutch saliva test to see if some of your adrenal hormones, your neurosteroids, are not completely out of whack. That would be my first recommendation. Right? It might be adrenal fatigue, or maybe you just need a week off to kind of catch up on recovery. So if you work a physical job, of course, you're moving all the time, so your caloric expenditure is a lot higher, and thus your caloric requirement and especially micronutrient requirement is going to be a lot higher. You need to make sure that you stay hydrated. You need to make sure that you stay on top of your electrolytes. This is what I usually did with all of my former clients that did physical jobs plus training on the side. You just need to eat more food and high quality food, which means it's taking away from your physical job because you need to eat every 3 hours and maybe pee every 1.5 hours because you need to hydrate yourself, especially if you do a physical job in a place where you're sweating all the time, keeping your electrolytes up, obviously. And then if you train at the end of the day or ideally before your physical job, wake up early, get your training out of the way first, and then do the physical job where all the nutrients are flowing in and, you're dispersing that throughout your body by staying active and improving blood flow. So you just need to attack it from all angles. And then I would not add in insulin, growth hormone, or Increlex or IGF-1 on top of that because they make you feel a little bit more sleepy, a little bit more sedated. But I would, add in compounds that are slightly more stimulatory, that is testosterone and DHT derivatives, and perhaps HCG. Right? So maybe growth hormone before bed to improve sleep quality, but insulin I would not do with a physical job unless it's like a low dose basal insulin, 5 to 10 IUs Lantus. Again, buy the insulin ebook or hire somebody to guide you through that process because insulin use is more complicated than I'm making it sound out to be. And maybe it's just time for a holiday, dude. But I had a lot of fatigue this week because when I went to the United States, I had no days off, 15 to 25,000 steps per day, and then training on top of that, and talking all the time. So last week was a week off for me. Yeah, I only went to the gym once. I did full body workout, and guess what? I'm sore as shit. Sucks. Bleachy. Let me sip some hydro. 38 years old, 185 centimeters tall, lost 20 kilos from 150 kilos. That's a big boy. So you're still 130. Would running the entrepreneur stack, testosterone cypionate plus 1 IU growth hormone help with the cut, or do I need to lose more body fat before starting? Well, at that height, you're probably still 20% body fat over 130 kilos. So just keep in mind that if you have high blood pressure now, it will probably get worse on testosterone. If you have water retention now, it will probably get worse on this combination of testosterone and growth hormone, even if you put telmisartan and aromasin in place to control your estrogen and your blood pressure Um, Simply because you're higher body weight and you just lost 20 kilos. So you have a lot of this, the loose skin and adipose tissue that still needs to retract. So honestly, I would bring your weight down to 110 kilos, or at least to the point you see your abs properly and you have some veins on your upper body, right? Your shoulders, your arms, your chest. So they're not being compressed by the body fat and thus your blood pressure is not going to get worse. Of course, you know, you can always run an aromatase inhibitor to kind of prevent the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, which is certainly going to take place in the body fat when you've been higher body fat levels. And that being said, if you lost 20 kilos and you go on this protocol now, you'll probably gain 5 to 7 kilos of muscularity and water retention, even if you control your estrogen and blood pressure with aromasin and telmisartan. So my recommendation would be to get leaner first. You can still go on the entrepreneur stack, but just skip the testosterone cypionate and the growth hormone. But if you don't want to wait, if you feel that it's going to be more beneficial, make sure you do your blood work before. Make sure you have an aromatase inhibitor in place. Make sure you have Nolvadex in place in case of gynecomastia formation, which is more likely if you were higher body fat. And then keep cutting. Yeah, keep cutting and wait for the next entrepreneur deep dive, which will drop before the end of the month. I promise, because I already started, preparing for the nootropic side and upregulating the neurotransmitters with nootropics, nootropics, and the over-the-counter supplements and the building blocks for neurotransmitters, and then how to optimize your cognition and your motivation and pleasure that you get out of finishing medial tasks, so that you can already incorporate. All right. And, dopaminergic fat loss aids are also highly productive. Yeah. But those might not be available in Europe or Australia. Yeah. Australia also uses centimeters and kilograms, right? What is a good energy productivity stack that what is a good energy and productivity stack? I've tried Semax and Selank, Adderall, Modafinil. What would you say is the best route for energy? Man, I mean, there's something to say for all of those. If you do Semax in the morning or Selank in the morning and Semax in the afternoon, or vice versa. I like Semax nasal sprays in the morning and then Selank subcutaneous in the afternoon. And then, of course, Adderall and Modafinil is going to give you productivity, somewhat energy stimulation, right? At a low dose, 2.5 milligrams Adderall and maybe 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams Modafinil upon waking. But the best energy you would get is, by mitochondrial upregulation with nicotinamide mononucleotide, NAD+, B vitamins, vitamin C, ubiquinol, right? What I mentioned in the mitochondrial support stack, which is actually the foundation of the optimized endurance stack and the optimized entrepreneurial stack. So I would look into upregulating mitochondrial function by watching the mitochondrial support video, and then look into adding in one of these nootropics for productivity on top. So for energy, mitochondrial upregulation, and for productivity, Semax, Selank, Adderall, Modafinil, Cerebralizin, and SSRI. Again, we'll document all of that in the Entrepreneur Deep Dive video series. Let's see. Oh man, it's a lot of comments in the meantime. Sorry guys. Let's see. Hope chat will remain clean. Don't forget to subscribe and like, boys. Almost 100K. Spread the word. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Andrew, you want to come on a podcast with me soon? Man Medicine, doubled my count with HCG and FSH, but still had to do IVF. It's expensive, but worth it. Okay, so now we have something in common more than our testosterone replacement therapy. Andrew, shoot me a message on DM while we're doing this podcast, while we're doing this live stream. Let's just get it started, because I fucking like your content, because it's long and in depth, and that's what the women like us, all right? Long and deep. But for us men, we like long and deep content and conversations also. So let's set it up. And that logo is fucking epic because it makes me think of Berserk. Let's see, Berserk. Is that the same logo? What's it? Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to the Berserk logo. All right. Shoot me a DM. Let's get it started. Hey, Steve, I got skipped. Did I? All right. Oh, no, sorry, I did. Man, so many super chats. My bad. Baskar. What to get on blood work to detect pregnenolone deficiency? Progesterone versus 17-hydroxyprogesterone. I have 75 milligrams sustained release DHEA tablets. Can this be done every other day? Didn't I just answer this question similarly? So check your pregnenolone, check your pregnenolone sulfate. And then what was the one? I think it's 17-hydroxyprogesterone comes after progesterone, but let me check the steroid cascade. Can't really remember which one comes first. Where is it? Why most people don't do live streams because they get stumped all the time, and then they don't want to look stupid like I am by having to fucking Google these things. Terrible. All right, pregnenolone through 17-alpha hydroxylase goes into 17-alpha hydroxypregnenolone, and then but directly into progesterone through the 3-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase enzyme. So just check your progesterone because 17-alpha hydroxyprogesterone comes after progesterone. So if you want to check if your pregnenolone levels are too low, pregnenolone, obviously, or 17-alpha hydroxypregnenolone, not progesterone, or pregnenolone sulfate or progesterone. One or several of these if it is available. But in most labs, it's just a progesterone. So what I usually do is if progesterone is high and you're not on nandrolone, then it's very likely that your progesterone intake is a little bit, or pregnenolone intake is too high as well. So I was on pregnenolone. I did my blood work before and after. I'll drop a video about this next week. So before and after the USA, and I was on 12.5 milligrams pregnenolone the entire way through. But my progesterone levels went to 0.25, which I prefer to have it around 0.1. So I'm going to retest it about a month from now in the same pregnenolone protocol, because it might mean that my pregnenolone dose right now is too high for the activity and the metabolism and all that stuff that I have, or simply because I came off nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide plus administrations while in the US, the enzymatic reactions which contribute to the breakdown or the metabolism of pregnenolone into 17-alpha hydroxy pregnenolone or deoxycorticosterone is not sufficient enough, right? So I'm just going to keep my protocol the same, but reintroduce my regular diet protocol and lifting strategy and supplementation protocol, and then see if my progesterone levels are still too high, and otherwise I'm going to make an adjustment. So again, with 75 milligrams sustained release DHEA tablets, I would just dissolve it and then administer 25 milligrams per time. But DHEA, of course, doesn't convert into progesterone. It would just convert more into testosterone, which isn't the end of the world. All right, where were we? All right. Logan Braden, what's your thoughts on RU 58841, the number that I always keep forgetting, and or low dose oral minoxidil for hair loss? Yeah, so I think the combination of RU 58841 and minoxidil topically or ketoconazole works quite well. But I would not do oral minoxidil or oral ketoconazole because oral ketoconazole is a very potent inhibitor of the neurosteroid and sex hormone cascade. Inhibits aromatase enzyme activity and the conversion of neurosteroids into sex hormones. And it's a horrible compound for systemic use. I would only use it if you have some sort of infection, right? So minoxidil, ketoconazole, and RU 58841 or topical dutasteride for that matter can all be mixed together at low dosages. and then used topically in the scalp to block the androgen receptors and prevent the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone by inhibiting 5-alpha reductase isoenzyme type 2. So that would be a logical approach, but I would not do oral minoxidil or oral ketoconazole because the side effects are pretty brutal from what I've seen. Yeah, so do it topically. But I'm not exactly sure what the dosages are going to be because I'm obviously not a hair loss expert. I mean, look at this. Look at how much hair I have. And I trimmed it yesterday. I mean, I shaved yesterday. I trimmed yesterday. It just grows like crazy. It's all the collagen supplements that I'm taking. Yeah, people shit on collagen and then they want to use RU58841, to prevent hair loss. When in reality, you could just be supplementing with a little bit of collagen and get hair growth through that route, because collagen is the foundation for keratin, which is the building block for hair. All right. Timothy Munoz. For the first time, few enhanced bulks. Should you push body weight to the point you look pretty fat? It's going to happen anyway. So why fight it? Just let it happen. Just let it happen. Because if you stay lean, you're not going to put on that much size. And, the first few bulks, you can get away with a lot less comparatively to the later bulks, when you need more steroids to elicit more of an anabolic response, because the muscle that you already have is taking a certain amount of anabolism from the steroids that you're taking and the food that you're taking in to sustain itself. And to progress beyond that, you need more food and more steroids, or at least synergy between a boatload of different performance-enhancing drugs. So, yeah, I would just let your body weight go up high. I mean, that's what I did. Of course, we didn't have social media that we needed to look good in. But I think my first couple of bulks were very successful because I just ate, and didn't give a flying fuck and still got laid. Yeah, albeit it was with fatties also, because I was fat, so they were fat. Yeah, shame on me. But of course, if you're on social media making money, then it pays off to be leaner. And in that sense, the bulk can be a good return of investment, even if the dosages are higher, because you can afford it, because you make money. You can do the blood work because you make money. And, staying leaner will obviously get you laid faster. So, but then you might have to, spend money on, STD drugs also, unless you're wrapping it up. Man, we went south fast. All right, man, medicine approved. And honestly, I should have gotten you on earlier, but you already went on the TRT and optimization YouTube channel. So too bad. Well, don't worry. I'll expose you to my audience soon. All right, let's set it up, dude. I love your content. Let's see. Where were we? No, you recommend fasted cardio year-round. What heart rate do you also recommend? I just answered this, 125 to 135 beats per minute. It should be a little bit strenuous, but whatever machine you do is up to you, because some machines are better for your heart rate, but worse for your connective tissue and your recovery on your legs, and vice versa, right? Some machines are better for your lower body and then still raise your heart rate quite a bit. So I like the elliptical, but maybe it's a Stairmaster for you. Thoughts on injectable GHK copper? I can't seem to find anything definitive regarding its effect on skin improvement or anything on any other purported benefits. So I ran GHK copper from 2 milligrams up to 10 milligrams per day. I did it subcutaneously. I did it topically. I did it intramuscularly. I still had gray hairs. My skin didn't improve, but my skin is pretty good because, I'm on top of my collagen supplements. And, I take a multivitamin with a little bit of copper, and I'm on top of my vitamin C and my antioxidants. And I shower like 3 times a day. And I'm hygienic overall. And I'm in a micronutrient surplus. So GHK copper on top of all of that didn't do jack shit for me. My hair growth is perfectly fine. I don't have any hair loss. So I can't say that GHK copper improved hair growth in any way, shape, or form. But what I will say, and what I will vouch for, is that localized GHK copper injections in weaker muscle groups, assuming you can, fight the post-injection pain, which is brutal, is very good for side enhancement. Again, for smaller body parts. So I was able to improve my teardrops on my legs and the outer head, or the outer head of my tricep quite a bit with post-workout GHK copper administrations of 5 milligrams bilaterally. So that's 10 milligrams total. And then just strategically moving that around to induce a little bit of localized collagen synthesis, which over time added up to quite a bit. Was it worth the pain? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Could I have gotten the same effect from Increlex administrations locally? Potentially. But at the time, I didn't have access to Increlex. So, maybe do that experiment again, but then again, I'm relying on muscle memory. So the only real application for GHK copper, from my personal experience, is either side enhancement or potentially hair growth. But then I would recommend palmitate GHK, which permeates into the skin. The palmitic acid contained within the GHK, and it doesn't have the copper, so it might be less potent for collagen synthesis, but it does seem to permeate the skin a lot better than GHK copper by itself, which the molecule I think is a little bit too big, but I could be mistaken there. So, yeah, but gray hairs, skin texture. Maybe I'll run that experiment again when I'm old as balls and I'm 80 years old. Maybe it will be, a world of difference. But at 40 years old, I can't really say that it did much for anti-aging purposes. King David, I really like your entrepreneur stack video on the TRT Plus format. My question is, how big of a psychological difference do you notice from 90 levels of test compared to 1500 nanograms per deciliter? It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. Although I did speak to an entrepreneur not too long ago during a consultation that said he got nothing out of exogenous testosterone, but his testosterone levels went up quite high. So he went on TRT Plus, but he was already motivated and already in a good mood. So he said he didn't notice anything from a cognition or productivity or mood enhancing difference. So I told him, stop it cold turkey and see what happens. You'll probably feel quite low. Maybe for him, what I speculated is that his change was so gradual, right? He started at 100 milligrams and then built his way up per week. I think he just slowly and surely increased his testosterone levels to the point it felt normal each increment. Because again, these hormones are self-tapering. So if you take testosterone antitate, it takes like 4 weeks before serum concentrations reach peak levels. So you take a multitude of administrations, and after 30 days, levels might be double, but it feels the same because it took such a long time, right? The change is gradual. I mean, if you take like 1,000 micrograms LSD, the change is very ungradual. It's acute, and you definitely feel it. But I think if you slowly build that up, after a month, you probably think that that's the normal way of life. Don't do that, obviously, but you see the difference, right? So if you inject, a gram of test in one shot, you will surely feel a difference. But if you build up your dosages, you might just acclimatize to these increased serum testosterone levels. But for most people, going from 600 to 1500 nanograms per deciliter, night and day in all aspects. Yeah. Might come with some side effects, obviously, but that's the nature of the beast. Logan, got blood work done. Everything is in range except for thyroid stimulating hormone. It was high and over the range. Getting more blood work done to check. I'm 21 years old. Is it nutrient deficiency? Could be early onset of Hashimoto's disease. So please do some additional testing and make sure that you supplement with iodine and selenium, which might be able to bring your thyroid stimulating hormone down, because you need iodine for thyroid production, particularly T4, which contains 4 iodine atoms, and T3 contains 3 iodine atoms, and it's a deiodinase enzymes, as the name implies. D-iodinase, A stands for enzyme, so it cleaves one iodine atom off the T4 and makes the biologically inactive T4 active in the form of T3, right? So from 4 to 3 iodine atoms, but you still need adequate iodine intake from kelp or iodized table salt or man, that's about it, right? What else is high in iodine? Maybe some food sources are a little bit higher, but kelp and iodine from table salt, that's probably the best way to go. And then you need selenium, which is part of the deiodinase enzymes. So you can get that from animal meat sources, very high in selenium or selenium, however the fuck you want to pronounce it. So a bro food diet, eating a lot of sushi rolls. Of course, don't eat so much tuna because tuna has mercury and that's not good for you either. So basically, long story short, you eat bro foods and you salt that with iodized table salt. You get a lot of selenium and a lot of iodine in your diet. And if TSH is still high, then check your thyroid peroxidase and reverse T3 and thyroid binding globulins, and then see if more things are off besides your TSH. And then maybe do an ultrasound on your thyroid gland here just to see if it's not inflamed or there's not a nodule or any other structural issue besides inflammation. And then take it from there, right? There's a multitude of different solutions for every different thing that is going on. But if it's a micronutrient deficiency, it's either iodine or selenium. And to a certain extent, B vitamins contribute to thyroid production as well. D3. Thoughts on oral BPC for gut issues. Works well. Yeah, 1 gram or 500 micrograms orally once or twice per day. Or can I put injectable into capsules? You can do that also. Can't seem to find oral. So yeah, if you can't find oral, let's not go there. If you can't find oral BPC, actually they do sell it, man. They sell it on most of the gray area peptide websites. Just search harder. D3, search better. Anyway, so you can just reconstitute your BPC 157 and transfer that from your vial with bacteriostatic water into drinking water, and just drink that on an empty stomach, and then wait 30 minutes for that to kind of absorb and pass your intestinal tract, and then starts potentiating its effects locally before you eat food again. So yeah, if you want to put the injectable into capsules, it's a little bit difficult because the injectable needs to be reconstituted with water, sterile water, bacteriostatic water, or a normal saline solution, which just contains sodium chloride. So, and that's a bit hard to dissolve in capsules or suspend in capsules when capsules generally dissolve when you add water to them. So, and you don't want to crack open the vial and start slicing up the puck. It's not going to work. Don't do it. So reconstitute it and then take what you need, dissolve it in just drinking water, slime it, and you'll be okay. All right. No more super chats. We're going to wrap it up because I have to go to the bathroom. So after this, no more super chats. We're going to answer 2 more questions from the boss man. How long should I run Trembolone acetate and testosterone propionate? Cycle coach says 8 weeks only, but I feel like anything under 12 weeks is not effective results-wise. So you can run the testosterone propionate for as long as you like, and then you add in the Trembolone acetate at the end. Could be the last 8 weeks or 6 weeks of your cycle. So if you want to run a 16 or 20 weeks, 26-week cycle, let's say 6 months, I'm totally okay with that. If it's just testosterone propionate with masterone or primo, that's totally fine. Assuming the dose is too low enough for you to stay healthy and you do your blood work frequently. But as soon as you add in the Trembolone sandwich, within 6 to 8 weeks, your cycle is going to end because Trembolone is just harder on your system and you need a little bit of a detoxification protocol and a reset after you're done with the Trembolone, unless you're really, really experienced and you have all the ancillaries and the blood work and the preventative measures in place. I'm not against running Trembolone acetate a low dose for up to 16 weeks, but that's not for beginners. And then we're talking about 50 to 70 milligrams Trembolone acetate per week. So get all the results you can out of a long low dose cycle of testosterone propionate, maybe bringing up the dosages over time as needed. And then if you want to close off your cycle with a bang, throw in the Trembolone sandwich, and then call it quits from after 6 to 8 weeks. Unbelievable, dude, this button. So sensitive. It's like right here on the side. Like if I press one of these, it just hits the back button. My apologies. All right, last one. Kratos, what's up, dude? You're in here every week. For IGF-1, if one has access to allogliptin. Okay, let me make sure that I'm getting the right one this time. Not being dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor, not sodium glucose type 2 inhibitor. Okay, dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor. Would it be better than Januvia because of the longer half-life? Also, what dose does it equal to 100 milligrams Januvia? So I'm not exactly sure what the half-life is, but let me Google that real quick. Let me see. I like the ones with shorter half-lives. Oh, it's 21 hours. Okay. So you can only take allogliptin in the morning. Of course, IGF-1 LR3 is a pretty long half-life. Allegedly up to 36 hours. So the allogliptin matches the half-life of IGF-1 a little bit closer, but since allogliptin being a dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor, also preventing the breakdown of insulin, if insulin levels are higher throughout the night and IGF-1 levels are higher throughout the night, and you don't manage your food properly, then you might go hypoglycemic. So this is why I usually recommend shorter acting dipeptidyl peptidase inhibitors like Januvia, being sitagliptin, right? Sitagliptin. That's 8 to 14 hours. So it's a little bit shorter. And sexagliptin, I think, has a shorter half-life. I think I mentioned it's in the World Anti-Doping Agency. Sexagliptin half-life medications. I wish there was an overview somewhere. I don't know if I'll. I probably have my notes here. Fuck it. Let me go into my notes. Let's see. The insulin ebook, I think. Where is it? Final. It's off-season protocols to prevent insulin resistance. I think it's in there. Gliptin. All right, so allogliptin, 21-hour half-life, 25 milligrams once per day is the starting dose, which is, I list here, Januvia, sitagliptin, is 100 milligrams per day as a starting dose. So I would do 25 milligrams of the allogliptin in this case. Right, that's what we're talking about, right? Allogliptin, 25 milligrams once per day upon waking. And then, let's see, the sitagliptin, anything with a shorter half-life is vildagliptin. It's only 1.3 to 2.4 hours. 50 milligrams once or twice daily, of course, because of its short half-life. It goes very well with Humalog, obviously. And IGF-1 DES. So you got it in and out of your system. There's sexagliptin, so that's not sixam or saxagliptin. Ongliza, half-life of 2.5 to 3.1 hours. That's only 2.5 to 5 milligrams once or twice daily. And then this one has an unknown half-life. Berberine, also dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor with a half-life of 2 to 5 hours. 500 milligrams once, twice daily. And then the longest one with a half-life of 120 hours is omarigliptin, brand name Marizev, and let's see, MK3102 as a number, research number. Omarigliptin Marizev. So yeah, in your case, allogliptin, 25 milligrams once per day upon waking. That will be the starting dose, and then adjust from there. All right, let's throw in the towel. I got to peel real bad, and I was drawing a blank today at certain periods of time. Did I miss any super chats? No, right? All right, cool. All right, guys, stay tuned for a podcast coming soon with Mr. Andrew from Man Medicine. I think and some more very cool podcasts coming soon. So for now, we're out of time. Peace out. Next week, Vigorous Q&A again on Saturday. Hopefully this microphone and all the setup will be absolutely flawless by the time for the best audio quality. Sorry it took so long, but yeah, sometimes I'm a little bit busy to take care of other stuff that I keep procrastinating about. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next Vigorous Q&A on Saturday. Peace out and enjoy your weekend.